Part 197. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1965. Having a conversation or even having dinner with a galaxy-level being is definitely the most magical and exciting act in a lifetime for all players in Earth civilization. At this dinner, Jia Yan did not show off his galaxy-level existence too much, because then the whole dinner would be impossible to proceed. Even a few of the brave players came over to offer a toast or something, and Jia Yan responded with a smile. Of course, there are more players who dare not come forward. They only dare to congratulate from a distance, and then feel annoyed that they are useless. But all in all, everyone felt at home and had a very good dinner experience. Boom! Not long after dinner, a large area of light lit up in this game space. Okay, the game operator's machine has started to have a power outage, and our game characters will disappear forever. Everyone, we will have a chance to meet again. Jia Yan held up the wine glass in his hand and raised his glass in a distant salute to the large number of players on the spaceship. Long live Lord Jia Yan! Suddenly, a player below cried out. Long live Lord Jia Yan! Master Jia Yan, I will always remember you. Today is the best memory in my life. Master Jia Yan must become the strongest person in the galaxy. Everyone raised their wine glasses, and then the sound of a large group of people unwilling to leave was heard. But even so, the last moment of the entire dinner and game has still arrived. The vibrating light in the distance gradually spread to the spacecraft of the Earth civilization from hundreds of millions of kilometers away. Ah! Poof! A player, after being affected by the light, screamed, and then the game character's body seemed to suddenly lose consciousness and fell directly to the ground. Is it coming now? It's too soon. Well. Poof. Poof. Puff 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 puff. A large group of players began to fall down one after another. Wherever the light swept, both game players and spaceships were rapidly disintegrating into particles. Finally, the light reached the location of Jia Yan's game character. Jia Yan shook his head. He and Adisha were the only ones left around. Okay, this game is over, Adisha, don't be sad, I will build an exclusive game for you in the future. Yes, Master, I know. The master that Adisha transformed into was already in tears. It was just a brain, but in this game, no one thought it was a brain. Everyone thought he was a real person. He also learned in this game. In many ways, it seems that in this game, he is one step closer to a truly intelligent creature. Ah! Jia Yan smiled slightly. Then, his game character quickly lost consciousness. It's just that he is different from other players. He stands little by little and turns into particles. Not long after, the entire starry sky returned to an extremely empty starry sky. All the ships, minerals created by game operators, as well as a large number of players, have lost their energy support and turned into extremely small basic particles. Specialized people will come to collect these particles. Later, the operator of this game will announce that because of an accident in the game, they will stop for a period of time to conduct self-examination. As for when the game will be reopened, it is not certain. In short, the game operators this time, those few star-level beings, suffered huge losses. But what surprised them was that when Jia Yan had a dinner with a group of players from Earth civilization and revealed that he was a galaxy class, there happened to be a live broadcast going on, which broadcast the scene to the nearby starry sky. Among thousands of households. This game is so fun that even a galaxy-level player comes here to play. Such a gimmick was like a whirlwind, quickly sweeping through a large area of the surrounding starry sky in a way that even Jia Yan had not expected, causing endless ordinary creatures to flock to it. From this point of view, even if this game has stopped, if it starts again in the future, the losses may be quickly compensated. This is also the greatest blessing among misfortunes. Call. On the Interstellar, there were so many players, spaceships, etc. just now, all turned into nothingness. The technological civilization in this galaxy is actually extremely powerful. It really opened my eyes. A giant eye that was as huge as an asteroid was quietly observing the outside world in subspace. Jia Yan was amazed by the power of this game's technology. In fact, it was the same. He was surprised by the technological capabilities of this game, because in the Orion Arm, let alone applying such technology to games, even military technology and people's livelihood technology, the step is extremely far away. Therefore, the area close to the Milky Way, that is, the area close to the Milky Way, is still very different from the countryside like the Orion Arm. Master Jia Yan, do you think this is okay? Just as Jia Yan was sighing, several star-level entities suddenly appeared in the starry sky. They are the main operators of this game. Okay, this way our transactions and cooperation will end here for the time being. I can also leave here and continue my journey to the central star field of the Milky Way. Sir, the central system of the Milky Way is still different from the outside world like us. Please take care of yourself. Okay, then we'll see you again. See you soon. Several star-level beings stood quietly outside the subspace. Not long after, they only felt that an extremely amazing power in the subspace left the starry sky with a terrifying and powerful man who was out of their reach. Let's go. Mr. Jia Yan is really a free and easy man. Perhaps such a strong person is the one who can enter the galaxy level. I feel that Master Jia Yan may not be as old as us. I feel the same way. Haha, maybe we are really going the wrong way. Only a brave person like Mr. Jia Yan can reach the galaxy level. Besides, I think Mr. Jia Yan will definitely be in the center of the Milky Way in the future. All of them have made a name for themselves. This, I can't guarantee it. After all, it is the center of the Milky Way, the essence of the entire galaxy. Several star-level creatures stood outside the subspace. After knowing that Jia Yan left, they spoke freely. It didn't hurt Jia Yan or anything, but he seemed to appreciate Jia Yan's temper and character. But their thoughts were nothing to Jia Yan who left. Stellar existence is a thing of the past to Jia Yan today. Even if he has no talent, he can't possibly regress in strength. Jia Yan never looks back at things from the past and opponents from the past. Adisha, give me more power to push forward into the 10th level space. Okay, come in. As Jia Yan left, there was a shout, and the Edisha, which he carried on his back, more like a small backpack, suddenly exploded with extremely amazing power, bringing Jia Yan together into the subspace. With the energy replenished, the Edisha no longer had to worry about the loss of energy and quickly took Jia Yan to their next trip. That's right, Jia Yan went on a game trip and got several good benefits for him. After completing the mutation process, he continued his trip. After walking for a long time, Jia Yan was a little anxious before he reached the central starry sky of the Milky Way. I don't know if the Zerg Queen and others have done something big in the center of the galaxy, but in such a short time, it shouldn't be like this. What Jia Yan is worried about is actually the Zerg Queen. Of course, it is not a special relationship, but he just wants to catch up with this strong female who he has temporarily regarded as his target. I don't know where they went. We don't even have a way to contact them. I can only go and look for them. Jia Yan was silent for a long time. In the subspace, he had not thought about the idea of making his own way in the universe. After all, after arriving here, he gradually became familiar with this starry sky in several adventures. He felt that even in the central starry sky of the Milky Way, he should have his own living space, rather than being suppressed by the Zerg Queen. It should be better to go out on your own. But in fact, Jia Yan didn't want this. Because following the Zerg Queen will definitely bring more benefits temporarily. Moreover, even if he has become a mid-level star, his strength is likely to be much stronger than that of an ordinary mid-level star, but he also knows that his strength is nothing in this starry sky. The galaxy level is strong, but in the central starry sky of the Milky Way, there must be creatures that are much stronger than those at the intermediate level of the galaxy, and their number will not be small. Another thing that pressured Jia Yan to continue to cooperate with the Zerg Queen was that Jia Yan felt that there was still an eye behind him, watching him. That was the Territory Lord creature that he had angered. The other party is already arresting him in this starry sky, which shows that this Domain Lord creature must be truly angry. If Jia Yan had no place to protect him in the central starry sky of the Milky Way, he might be forced to a dead end by this Domain Master creature in the future. The pressure of the strong is no joke. As a strong man himself, Jia Yan knew very well what terrible things would happen to a strong man when he was angry. Besides, that Domain Master creature is not weak compared to the Zerg Queen. If the Zerg Queen is confident that she can roam in the center of the Milky Way, then he must have already wandered in the central starry sky of the galaxy, and he may even achieve certain achievements. If I enter alone, I might be targeted by him again. The above reasons are the real reasons why Jia Yan wants to return to the embrace of the Zerg Queen. Anyway, there's no harm in going back. The Edisha moved forward for an unknown amount of time. While Jia Yan was thinking about things, Jia Yan was suddenly startled. Even Edisha was startled, and then the Edisha, which was pushing Jia Yan forward, slowly stopped within 10 degrees of subspace. What is this? Afterwards, Jia Yan and Edisha were completely shocked. Because in front of his eyes, within the 10-dimensional space that should have been empty, there was actually a huge light curtain like a knife, cutting the entire path forward in half. This light curtain was simply too big, neatly cutting the entire 10-dimensional space to an unknown distance. It's as if the subspace has been closed to traffic. The 10 dimensions of space have actually been cut off. No, it seems that the 11th dimension after that has also been cut off. Is this something done by human beings? Goodoo. The giant mosquitoes want to swallow a mouthful of saliva. If this was a man-made thing, then how terrible this existence would be. A large area of subspace ahead, whether it was 1 degree or 10th degree, or even the 11th degree afterwards, or the subspace that might exist after 11th degree, was neatly cut in half. If there is such an existence, it is definitely not galaxy level. Moreover, this power is not the power that was just emitted, but has existed for countless years. This kind of power cutting has already happened many years ago. Jia Yan was shocked beyond words. Is that the center of the Milky Way in front of you? Haha, I was still thinking before, whether there has been a being above the galaxy level in the Milky Way, but as soon as I got here, I got ironclad evidence. In the Milky Way, I don't know now. But at least before ancient times, there definitely existed existences that exceeded the galaxy level, otherwise, there would be no living creatures that could achieve such cutting. Jia Yan was shocked. Others didn't know if there was a strength level above the galaxy level, but he had just arrived in the central starry sky of the Milky Way, and he felt strength beyond the galaxy level from within the 10-dimensional subspace. I don't know if this should be considered a good thing. In the bottom of Jia Yan's heart, the thought that he was not strong enough suddenly arose. Peak, what is the peak? That's right. My previous vision has become more and more narrow. If I want to talk about strong people, in that other world, don't I know that there are people far beyond the galaxy level? Does it exist? Haha, after returning to the normal world, I thought that the high-level galaxy level was the peak. Are you deceiving yourself, just to feel that you are strong enough? Jia Yan smiled bitterly. He knew that if this light curtain-like cut had not appeared in front of him, deep down in his heart, he would have regarded the galaxy level as his final pursuit. But in fact, even if this light curtain does not exist, he should know that there must be more powerful creatures above the galaxy level, because there are such creatures in the giant world he has been to before. Okay, Now that my narrow vision has been opened again, let me see what the central star field of the Milky Way that instantly woke me up in front of me looks like. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1966. Jia Yan smiled. In fact, when this light curtain appeared, he knew that the world behind this light curtain was the central star field of the Milky Way. He originally thought it was a geographical name, but now when he saw the light curtain, he knew that it was not a geographical division at all. Perhaps it was just such a light curtain that separated the central star field of the Milky Way from the outside world. The central star field of the Milky Way, here I come. The central star region of the Milky Way, which has been talked about for so long, has now truly arrived in front of him. For Jia Yan, this is already a place of faith. Of course, for all powerful people, the central star field of the Milky Way is really a place of faith. After all, the number of strong people here is many times that of the outside world, and there are far more resources and opportunities than the outside world, so it is naturally a place where countless people flock to. Master, then we leave from the outer starry sky. Let's go outside. Jia Yan was naturally non-committal to Edisha's question. Edisha nodded, and the little light and shadow mosquito bodies began to fly around. The Edisha from outside also began to push the engine together. Under the push of this engine, Jia Yan, who was in the 10-dimensional space, was the backpack-style Edisha was pushed together into the 9th dimension. 9th, octave, 7th. It wasn't until there was a space that Jia Yan asked Edisha to stop pushing. It was like he was carrying an ordinary mechanical backpack and flew out of the subspace. Wow, is that a galaxy-level adult over there? It must be, such a huge body. We are actually lucky enough to see a galaxy-level adult enter the center of the Milky Way. It's great. Haha, this is the center of the Milky Way. For us, galaxy-level beings are rare, but here, galaxy-level beings are almost extremely common creatures. Is it really that scary? Just as Jia Yan flew out of the subspace, he heard a group of people outside talking about it. After he was stunned for a moment, he looked around and found that outside the subspace he entered and exited, there happened to be a starry sky route similar to a passage. On this route, there are many spaceships and merchant ships entering and leaving the center of the galaxy. It turns out that there are actually so many ordinary creatures in the central star field of the Milky Way. At a glance, Jia Yan knew that many of the creatures entering the center of the galaxy were of average strength. In this small team, most of them are around the heaven level, a little bit more powerful, that is, the venerable or half-star level, not even a star level. It's normal when you think about it, because ordinary creatures are very necessary to maintain a star field. After all, the basic construction cannot be done by strong people. This can maintain ordinary construction or ordinary technological operations. There must be some weak ones. Of course, this is said to be a certain number of weak people, but in fact, in the central star field of the Milky Way, the number of weak people is definitely far more than the average strong people. There are not many strong people in the first place, not to mention that in places with many resources, there will be creatures flock here, and this is not just the exclusive nature of the strong. The weak will also try all kinds of ways to enter here to fight for the resources they can get. What's more, in the central star field of the Milky Way, it is so helpful even to the strong, but for the weak, it is more like heaven. Jia Yan didn't look at this group of creatures. He flew past more than a dozen merchant ships that were smaller than his own. When he flew forward, he saw the white light that had previously blocked the Aditha. This light actually cut from the normal space to the subspace in one breath. For Jia Yan, this seemed like something unimaginable. Well, I have been saying that there may not be any existence above the galaxy level, but anyone who takes a look at this light will know that there must be a strong person above the galaxy level. Jia Yan sighed again. He didn't know what the Zerg Queen's expression was when she came to the central star field of the Milky Way earlier than him. According to Jia Yan, her expression must be very wonderful. You know, this queen has always wanted to be the first being to surpass the galaxy level, but now here, there is actually a power that must have surpassed the galaxy level, showing here. Look, everyone, this is a famous place. It is said that 50 million years ago, there was a big explosion in the starry sky. The natural scene caused by it is very powerful. Many people regard this place as the destruction caused by the strong. Don't be fooled. The scene here is deceiving. Jia Yan was suddenly startled. Because in the spaceship around them, there were actually some older creatures teaching their children that this light curtain-like light was actually a natural phenomenon. That's not right. In my opinion, this is the power caused by the strong. Why do people here teach that it is a natural scene? Could it be that the strong think so too? Jia Yan was stunned. He didn't know if the strong ones thought so as the weak ones in the merchant ships around him. After all, it is normal for the strong to see that this place is the destruction caused by extremely terrifying existence. They should not think so. Teacher, we know that this is common sense in the center of the galaxy. Many powerful adults think this common sense is correct. After a group of childlike creatures in the merchant ship responded, Jia Yan's expression became even weirder. A trace of thought flashed in his giant mosquito eyes. Perhaps I am overthinking it, because I have seen another world and know that there is a more powerful person in the world. With this preconceived idea, I will believe that the energy here is a powerful person. It is caused by a strong person, but this is something that is difficult for the strong people in the galaxy to accept for a while, so many of them do not believe that the energy here is caused by a strong person. They will be confused about their strong self-confidence and the direction of their strong progress. As a result, a large number of powerful people have reached a consensus that the energy here is caused by nature. Besides, except for me, no one has been within 10 degrees of subspace and saw that this energy is actually within the subspace. It's all destroyed. Of course, even if someone enters, it is possible that in their minds, it is the impact of nature. Jia Yan himself knew that there were existences far beyond the galaxy level in the world, so he did not feel that this existence was something that was impossible to imagine. Others would not think so. After all, there is no record of such a being appearing in the history of the Milky Way, so they would not think that such a being really existed. Speaking of this energy, if we use a special universe, it is also possible that it is caused by astronomical phenomena. For example, it is caused by gamma rays or black holes tearing apart. Even if it is difficult to go around, there are many strange things in the universe. Even if the Milky Way is so developed today, there are still a lot of them. Natural scenes cannot be explained by science. My lord, do you want to pass? Just when Jia Yan arrived outside the large land of light in front of him, a weak voice spoke from the side. Jia Yan was slightly startled. It's not that he doesn't know that there are people guarding here, but he just knows that the creatures here are a group of venerables or half-stars. Presumably, such existences should not dare to talk to a galaxy-level powerhouse. But now, Jia Yan was a little surprised when he saw that this group of weak people guarding him actually dared to talk to a galaxy-level person. What's wrong? Jia Yan turned around. There was no special emotional meaning in his expression. To the strong, the weak is the weak. Even if the weak has some offense, as long as it does not exceed a certain limit, the strong will generally not do anything. Because such a weak person could almost be ignored, Jia Yan didn't think what he said made him think. Perhaps it was Jia Yan's attitude that emboldened the other party. The one who spoke was a venerable being. Dear sir, this barrier level is dominated by our forces. If you want to enter, you need to make certain reports with us. Sir, please don't embarrass us. This is our rules. The other party was quite smart and knew that a strong man would not like such a thing, so he quickly explained that this was their rule. At this moment, this venerable level creature was also cursing from the bottom of his heart. he was originally an insignificant role in the force he joined. This time, his mission was to find a remote place with a screen of light and guard it for decades. He had been living a life here like a pension. I never thought that in such an unknown place, a galaxy-level being would pass by. What I didn't expect was that this galaxy-level being actually came. If you offend the other party, your own life, and even the life of the powerful creatures guarding around this light curtain, will be at risk. But he didn't dare not say it, because this was the request of their forces and it was his duty. Oh? You actually want me to report? Do you know what my strength is? Jia Yan smiled slightly, almost wanting to burst into laughter. In this galaxy, there are actually such venerable level creatures that are not afraid of galaxy level creatures. It is a very new experience for him. I know, you are galaxy level. The other party was obedient and had the courage to endure it for a long time before revealing Jia Yan's strength. No, I am not only a galaxy level being, but also a galaxy level mid-level being. I am stronger than ordinary galaxy level mid-level beings. Do you know what this means? Now, you still want to stop me? Jia Yan is still not angry. As mentioned before, strong people generally will not be angry when facing a weak person, because no matter how the weak view a strong person, they will not have the slightest impact on the strong person. Of course, if you feel unhappy, or if you are a strong person with strong killing power, you will casually kill the weak person who offends you in this way. Generally, no one will pursue this. Jia Yan's good temper made him almost unable to help but praise him. But what surprised Jia Yan was that the surrounding creatures guarding him seemed not surprised by this scene. Even if they were afraid, there was a bit of courage in their expressions. Sure enough, when Jia Yan said these words, he only saw the venerable level creature who was talking to him. He thought for a long time before he mustered up the courage to say the following words. Are you a mid-level galactic master? I'm slightly offended, but you need to know, sir, that this is our responsibility. Guarding this place is a requirement of our forces. Our family's forces have a certain level in the central star field of the Milky Way. Influence, otherwise it would be impossible to be assigned to a section of the starry sky light curtain front. Sir, if you feel that the small waiters are not enough to talk to you, please wait for a few days. A galaxy-level being from our force is nearby, and he will come over soon to have an equal conversation with you. Jia Yan was slightly startled. No wonder, this venerable level creature dares to speak to a galaxy-level being like this. It can be seen that his so-called power should be a behemoth-like existence, so huge that even a small venerable level creature dares to have such a bold conversation with a mid-level galaxy existence. Will another galaxy-level person come to talk to me? Judging from his appearance, we can know that this galaxy-level being will not be too weak to me. In other words, this will also be a galaxy-level mid-level existence. Of course, I think the average galaxy mid-level existence is not a threat to me, but for such a simple thing, there will be a galaxy mid-level existence here, which shows the power of this family. Absolutely, it cannot be underestimated. It's scary to think about it. That's right, a force that can guard the starry sky entering the center of the Milky Way, and still completely surround the surroundings under its own power, must be a behemoth. Even the venerable creature said that their power is in the center of the entire Milky Way. Have a certain influence. This shows that the other party is a member of a huge force. Of course, when the venerable said this, it also made Jia Yan a little self-aware. Although there is a huge force behind them, but in today's light, Jia Yan's strength is still crushing them, dead. No matter whether this galaxy mid-level will be hunted down by the forces, they can't be saved, so when it's time to give in, they won't be vague at all. Forget it, let me report it. Jia Yan smiled slightly, and he actually figured it out. He also knew that this so-called report should be easy to pass. If he doesn't tell his real name, how can others tolerate him? Besides, even if you don't report it, there are videos recorded here. If you don't report it, wouldn't it still mean that others know your appearance? After thinking about all this, he didn't think so much anymore. Just report it. In short, he didn't want to provoke another powerful enemy before he completely entered the central star field of the galaxy. Just like the Domain Master creature last time, he was hunted down by him inexplicably. Jia Yan felt that such a presence could not happen again this time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1967. Master Assassin? Okay, Master Assassin, please enter the central star field of the Milky Way. Seeing that Jia Yan was very cooperative, the venerable creature quickly took out other instruments, recorded Jia Yan's fake name of assassin, and then let him go. This is the most respectful reporting method for a galaxy-level being. Otherwise, if other creatures or business groups enter, even the 18th generation of ancestors will have to ask questions. Even if they had to ask a galaxy-level being to register on a matter-of-fact basis, they knew very well that the strength of a galaxy-level being was definitely not something they could talk nonsense about. This venerable creature was so frightened that he almost wanted to die. Fortunately, Jia Yan didn't pursue his question any further. Okay, well, you did a good job and were loyal to your duties. Jia Yan looked at the light curtain with a huge crack, smiled slightly, and did not forget to praise this venerable creature who dared to stop him. In fact, this is also true. Even if this venerable level creature has support behind him, he dares to speak out to intercept a galaxy-level being, which is considered to be extremely courageous. Thank you for your compliment, sir. The venerable creature looked overjoyed. Being able to get praise from a galaxy-level creature is a great help for the future for a respected creature. Even if he speaks out, he will get the attention from above. The galaxy class has such power. Jia Yan stopped talking to this venerable creature, unfolded his body, and entered the huge light curtain. Praising this venerable level creature once again showed goodwill. After all, he had endured the humiliation of reporting, so Jia Yan would naturally not feel anything wrong if he said one more word. In this way, at least the other party will not continue to investigate his origins. Otherwise, if he keeps following the clues and finds the Domain Master creature that is chasing him, and let that guy know that he entered the central star domain of the Milky Way from here, he may chase him all the way into the star field. Jia Yan is not afraid of trouble, but provoking a Domain Lord creature to chase him is obviously something he wants to avoid as much as possible. Drink, good guy, this power. When Jia Yan just stepped into the central star field of the Milky Way and officially entered the inside of the light curtain, he was suddenly overjoyed. It turns out that the inside of this light curtain is like another world. He was almost shocked. You know, he had been on the periphery of the central star field of the Milky Way before. He believed that the close star field was close to the central star field of the Milky Way. It should be about the same. But now, after officially entering the Milky Way central star field, he realized that he was wrong. How wrong he was. Probably because of the countless years of obstruction by this light curtain, the power inside was completely out of proportion to the power outside. The power inside is at least 10 times that of the outside world. Being inside, the whole person feels like being bathed in the baptism of energy. It feels so good. This was the first time that Jia Yan felt full of energy in the normal starry sky. You must know that no matter where in the star field, the empty starry sky is the place with the rarest energy. And in the central star field of the Milky Way, the planet has not yet been seen. Standing in the starry sky, you can actually feel the energy level that can only be found in certain star fields in the outside world. This is absolutely shocking. The ordinary starry sky is so full of energy. What if we set foot on a planet with good energy? Jia Yan couldn't help but think about the terrifying energy he would feel if he set foot on a planet. No wonder, the central star field of the Milky Way is the greatest place in the entire galaxy. This environment alone is much better than the outside world. No, I think this light curtain will not always cover the entire central star field of the Milky Way. Even if there was such a strong man in ancient times, why would he spend a lot of money to cover the entire central star field of the Milky Way? Surrounded by it, that is to say, there should be a high probability that other places will not be blocked by this light curtain. However, the energy in the entire central star field of the Milky Way is still extremely abundant, which shows that the central star field of the Milky Way itself is an extremely terrifying energy level, not just because of this light curtain. In fact, it's something you can understand when you think about it. The central star field of the Milky Way has become a holy land not because of such a light curtain. There are too many planets here, including too many black holes to count. The energy in this kind of place should be many times stronger than the outside world. Maybe the super terrifying strong man here came to live and even used this terrifying light curtain attack just because there was so much energy in this place. That's not right. There must be some powerful enemy. But how powerful would it be to be able to make such a being fight with such power? It's not possible. I don't dare to think about it anymore. It's terrifying to think about it. Jia Yan shuddered and quickly turned his body and flew into the depths of the universe. The light screen defender behind him disappeared instantly. Soon, Jia Yan entered the subspace. Edisha, use the deep space power for me. There should be a lot of amazing dangers here, so we have to be careful. Okay, Master. Edisha asked Jia Yan's Edisha to emit a burst of engine power, and then Jia Yan sank into the deep subspace again. 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, 4 degrees, 10 degrees. It wasn't until he reached the 10th dimension that Jia Yan breathed a sigh of relief. For him, it is definitely more dangerous in the outside world than in the subspace. After all, Jia Yan is stronger than ordinary strong people because of his talent in this space. I feel like I can't reach the 10th dimension of the subspace by myself with my current subspace talent, but if it's the 9th dimension, I should be able to reach it. For domain master creatures, the 9th dimension of subspace is not easy to attack. At 10 degrees, even they will be helpless. So this will be my greatest place to protect myself. Jia Yan has always been very clear about his own advantages. When he was in the Orion Arm, he shined brilliantly with his yin-yang talent, and even killed another mid-level galaxy being. But in this place where strong men are as numerous as dogs and galaxies are everywhere, his yin and yang dao is not as domineering as imagined. On the contrary, he has always had the oldest talent, which is the subspace that he has been using. Talent, but it shows benefits. Within the 10-dimensional space, even the domain lord creatures can hardly harm him. As for the existence of the lower level of the galaxy, it is hard to say, but Jia Yan estimates that he will not have nothing to do and run to provoke an existence of the lower level of the galaxy. You must know that creatures with such strength are extremely rare even in the central star field of the Milky Way. They are extremely rare. So now, the best way for me to travel is to use the Edisha to sink into the 10-dimensional space. This effectively eliminates the possibility of being killed by a super powerful person in one blow. Jia Yan has been flying, and he doesn't dare to move swaggeringly in the shallow space like he is in the outside world. After all, for Jia Yan, his strength in the central star field of the Milky Way is not a terrifying strong man who keeps his word. There are domain lords in the outside world chasing him, so when he goes to the central star field of the galaxy where there are more domain lords, he is more likely to provoke domain lord creatures, so he naturally has to be careful. How should I go now? Jia Yan is thinking about how to find the Zerg Queen. It was inevitable to find a force to settle down, but as he was unfamiliar with this place, he felt that it would be better to join forces with the Zerg Queen and the others. After all, we all came together, not to mention that Jia Yan was also familiar with the Zerg Queen and knew her character. Even if he's not completely good at sex, he's not bad either. If you join other forces, it's hard to say. Maybe they don't care about a foreign mid-level star at all, and it's possible for him to be used as cannon fodder. Let's do this. I'll first find a planet to settle down and inquire about the information here. By the way, I'll also ask if there's any news about the Zerg Queen and others around. Jia Yan thought about all this, and then asked the Edisha to use its own detection device to detect intelligence from the outside world to see if there was any planet worthy of his stay. In the center of the Milky Way, the distance between stars is much closer than in the outside world. After all, tens of billions or even hundreds of billions of stars can be piled up in such a small starry sky. It can be said that they are piled up in one place. Because of this accumulation, energy in the stars collides with each other, and even engulfs each other, all the time. When Jia Yan was flying in the subspace, he would often experience a huge attraction that made him tremble with fear. He almost lost control of the Edisha and was sucked out of the subspace. What a terrifying black hole! There are so many black holes in the central star field of the Milky Way. The one just now almost sucked me out of the 10th dimension. What a terrifying attraction this must be. Jia Yan was almost stunned. This was still within 10 degrees of subspace. He could imagine that it was really difficult for other creatures to move in this starry sky. Other creatures, except those who have my subspace talent, or the gravitational wave system talent, if they want to move, they really have to make every step of the way, or even take a long detour. People who are not familiar with the journey of stars, we don't dare to use super light movement methods casually, otherwise we will be seeking death. Jia Yan felt sad for the other creatures in the central star field of the Milky Way. Because there are a large number of black holes, and even some of them are much more terrifying than Jia Yan imagined. If it were him, if he didn't have the means to enter the 10-dimensional space, he would definitely not be able to easily enter the central star field of the Milky Way. If it moves, God knows when it will be swallowed by a black hole or crash into the interior of a large star. Even though he has great talent, Jia Yan is still cautious. Because he knew that there was a black hole that could affect the interior of the subspace just now, indicating that there may be a stronger black hole. If he was not careful and hit such a black hole that would affect even 10 degrees of subspace, then he would definitely not have escaped. That's right, no matter how terrifying the existence is, when faced with the true power of nature, it is still a bit incomprehensible. I just don't know that the great existence that created the light curtain at the edge of the central star field of the Milky Way galaxy. Are you also afraid of places like black holes? Jia Yan was thinking about whether the super terrifying strong man who hit the light curtain had the strength to fight against a black hole. But after thinking about it, Jia Yan shook his head. Black holes also have different levels. As long as I react quickly enough, I have a chance to escape from a small black hole. But a large black hole, or even the black hole in the center of our galaxy that causes the entire galaxy to rotate, I think even it is that extremely terrifying existence that cannot be resisted, let alone the extremely amazing black hole that may exist in other star fields. It is estimated that no matter how powerful the creature is, it cannot resist that kind of star. After all, it is the pinnacle power of the universe. Thinking of black holes and other dark matter, Jia Yan's heart felt like a mountain rising. No matter how powerful the creature is, it can break through into the starry sky, but when faced with the true peak power of the universe, it still appears to be very small. Of course, when a living being stands in the universe, the thing that really makes him despair is not a star, a black hole, or dark matter, but distance. Space is always a huge mountain that blocks the strong. No matter how strong a strong person is, he cannot fly through the galaxy quickly. Even if he can fly through the galaxy quickly, the local galaxy group outside the Milky Way is only a drop in the ocean of the universe. Even the observable universe may be a drop in the ocean of the real universe. The real universe is probably already countless billions of times larger than the visible universe. A strong man wants to fly around the world, but even the most terrifying existence cannot achieve this dream. Haha, what do I want to do so much? Anyway, let me reach the top of the entire galaxy level first. Jia Yan felt that he was a little unreasonable. He was not as strong as a peak person, so he thought about traveling across the universe. This was like an ant thinking about going to the moon. It was simply ridiculous. He must face up to the problems in front of him, find solutions to them all from Shiyuan, and then let his strength reach or exceed the galaxy level. Next, it is time for him to consider the future and whether to escape from the galaxy. Before that, thinking so much is nothing but unfounded worries. Hey, there's a planet ahead. It's so scary and full of power. Let's see if there's anyone strong there. If not, just stay there for a while and inquire about the situation. Jia Yan saw a planet with living things from a distance. He quickly slowed down the Edis's flight speed, and then released the clone to see if he could get any useful information from there. Who? Inside the subspace, a creature that looked like a giant dog shuttled past quickly. This is the clone that Jia Yan brought to the central star field of the Milky Way. The strength of this clone is about the level of a venerable. Jia Yan believes that even if it is not strong enough, it is at least an ordinary creature. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1968. Not long after, his clone passed through the subspace layer and stepped into the normal starry sky. In front of me is that planet with good energy. Oh, it is indeed different from the planets in the outside world. There is actually a galaxy level on a small planet. Jia Yan was stunned. You know, on the outside planets, having a star on a planet is considered an extremely scary thing. But on this planet in the central star field of the Milky Way, there is a galaxy-level existence on just one of them? No, according to my information, the galaxy class is definitely a high-end existence in this star field. There should be a reason for the galaxy class on this planet. It is impossible for every planet to have a galaxy class. Jia Yan came back to his senses and smiled. He knew that he was almost scared by himself. You know, under normal circumstances, Jia Yan's own worldview is already very mature, but after arriving in the star field that he has long been looking forward to, his worries and expectations will intensify his sense of confusion here. Ever since, there was almost instant confusion in thinking. Fortunately, the confusion only lasted a moment, and then he came back to his original thoughts. Okay, let's fly down and take a look. I hope this isn't a powerful place. The arrival of an outsider like me will attract their attention. Jia Yan thought about it, and it should be nothing to enter this place with a clone. Besides, there are more wars in the central star region of the Milky Way, not to exclude the outside world. What's more, as the largest trading and prosperous place in the entire galaxy, if any planet resists outsiders, then it cannot be the center. So when Jia Yan flew into this planet, he really only felt the strong man's sweep. The brainwave power made him shake slightly, and then nothing happened. The other party should be that galaxy-level being. He actually glanced at a venerable-level being when it entered the planet. It turned out to be a creature from the central star field of the Milky Way. It is usually placed in the outside world. A venerable-level creature came. Where is the galaxy-level being? They will take the initiative to observe each other. To the galaxy level, the venerable level creatures are almost like ants. However, after such a sweep, does he know that I am a clone? Jia Yan was a little solemn because he couldn't guarantee this. But even if it is discovered, at best it will be the destruction of a clone. Besides, in this starry sky, there should be a lot of galaxy level and even star level people who use clones to act. Jia Yan is not a for example, so people should not take any measures against him casually. Anyway, Jia Yan didn't know what the other party was thinking. In short, he walked all the way to the inside of the planet and didn't feel any signs of an attack. There wasn't even the slightest sign of anyone coming to investigate him. This is much more open than other planets. Just let people come down casually. Jia Yan was stunned. Could it be that the planet he entered so easily was a place without an owner? Impossible. How could such a prosperous planet have no owner? After all, such taxes and business income would definitely be huge. Maybe this is the characteristic of the central star field of the Milky Way. It's not that no one is in charge, but that they know that no one dares to cause trouble here. Besides, that galaxy-level being has been observing the entire planet. Jia Yan silently understood what happened to this planet, and then sighed for a while. Unexpectedly, the first planet he saw opened his eyes. In fact, after Jia Yan walked around the planet and flew over several large cities, he realized that this planet was not very representative. Probably because it is very close to the light curtain, there are many outside merchants here, and the entire planet is almost entirely engaged in the collection and distribution of goods from the outside world and goods from the central star field of the Milky Way. No wonder they don't investigate everyone, because such an investigation would waste a lot of time, not to mention that many businessmen with questionable identities would not enter. Jia Yan understood the reason why the other party was not strict. And the owner of this planet, Jia Yan, also learned their identities during the flight. It is actually the place managed by the Force just now, and they are also guarding the light curtain. It is normal for there to be 1 or 2 planets here. Jia Yan knew that this was the area of the light curtain that had been swept by the venerable creature before, so it was not surprising that a large area inside also belonged to that force. Forget it, no matter how many there are, it's no surprise to me which force there is. It can't be mine anyway. Jia Yan laughed to himself, and then he stopped flying, but found a larger city and landed below. Jia Yan's clone's strength is at the venerable level. He is more than 100 meters long. On this planet, he is considered to be of average size. Therefore, after flying to the ground, there are some people around who are not at the venerable level. All living things will consciously get out of the way. Of course, a guy who exudes the sense of strength of a venerable is far from being a strong person here, he is just a relatively strong being among the big guys. Jia Yan never thought about using his own avatar to compete with others. In short, he just wanted to find out what was different from the central star field of the Milky Way, which was clearly distinguishable from the outside world. Let me go, I have seen this kind of energy stone in the outside world separated by a light screen. The price of one stone is more than 10 times that here. Just separated by a light screen, it is actually 10 times cheaper? And look, it looks like you can still negotiate the price. Jia Yan saw an energy stone. He even thought about using it as the main energy for his mutation, but in the end he gave up because the energy was still not up to standard. The price of this energy stone in the outside world is 10 times that marked here. But here, it is only 1/10, and you can still negotiate the price. You know, Jia Yan thought about using it as his own mutant energy. Although he gave up in the end, it could prove how useful this energy stone is. It can be seen that the materials here are indeed different from those in the outside world. The prices of energy stones and energy mines here are actually much cheaper than those in the outside world. After watching for a while, Jia Yan looked strange. If I had known earlier, the central star field of the Milky Way galaxy was a holy place for cultivation, and there were even many strong people there. But after actually entering this place, he realized how different it was from the outside world. The main difference is that the materials here are really cheap. The materials are cheap, and the chances of cultivating a strong person are high. Of course, the only reason why materials are cheap is that things that are gems or treasures in the outside world can be found almost everywhere here. Is the reason for this situation because the energy here is too concentrated, or is it because there are many stars and interstellar materials? Jia Yan was thinking about this problem, but he finally concluded that there should be several reasons, otherwise there would not be such a gap between the inside and the outside world, separated by a light curtain. But, the biggest reason. Jia Yan's clone raised his head slightly and looked at the light curtain that seemed to cut the world apart. On this planet, a small glimpse of the light curtain can be seen. It was more terrifying than the stars, covering the entire world. Haha, even in the center of the galaxy, just like my Orion arm, are there extremely terrifying strong men controlling the world. Jia Yan sighed. He also had some doubts about this, because he didn't think that he alone felt that the light curtain was made by a strong person. Jia Yan stayed on this planet for a long time. Not only is he looking at the price levels inside, but more often than not, he is collecting intelligence. There is no internet or library. Is this because we want to restrict the general public from knowing too much information about the central star field of the Milky Way? Jia Yan finally understood why the outside world didn't understand the central star field of Galaxy Star so much. Because communication and networking are too difficult here. It is estimated that there should be general technology forces or starry sky, but at least here, there is no internet, and there is no place like a library. If he hadn't spoken out and hadn't seen so many strong men, Jia Yan would have suspected that this was actually a relatively backward starry sky. It sounds a bit like being backward. In fact, backwardness and advancement are relative. I guess even if the people living here are allowed to go out and live a better life outside, they won't be willing. In a place with a good reputation and the ability to quickly increase strength, ordinary creatures would probably not be willing to leave even if they have no talent. While Jia Yan continued shopping, he was suddenly startled. Because he felt that in front of the road his avatar was taking, there was a creature that looked like a venerable, standing on the street with a smile. The reason for his confusion was not the other party's venerable level strength. But he noticed that the other party had a kind of friendly yet terrifying strength. Galaxy level. Like Jia Yan, this is a clone of a galaxy level existence. There is only one galaxy class on this planet. Have you discovered me? Hello, sir, I didn't want to disturb you. Jia Yan also smiled. At least he didn't feel any intention to harm himself in the other person's body. Moreover, Jia Yan felt that the opponent's strength was that of a mid-level galaxy being. Compared with him, there should be a certain gap. Therefore, Jia Yan's attitude was very normal and he showed no signs of worry. It seems that this galaxy level has the same idea, or it should be said that he is also confident in his own strength. Of course, self-confidence is not a reason to want to start a war. Galaxy-level powerhouses in the universe generally don't like fighting. It's boring to fight life and death for such a powerful existence. Hello, Your Excellency, I saw that Your Excellency looked at my planet for a while and felt that you needed me, a local, so I came out to serve you. I'm really flattered that a galaxy-level being is serving me. Jia Yan heard the other party's words and became less vigilant. This is an extremely commercialized planet. Presumably, as the owner or manager of the planet, this galaxy class must also be full of business aspirations. They just knew that he was coming, so they deliberately didn't show up, just to see if this galaxy-level being of their own had any transactions to make. Now Jia Yan has been walking for a while without making any business inquiries. This galaxy class probably felt that it would take a transaction between galaxy classes for Jia Yan to be interested, so he showed up. Both each other, Your Excellency, although my planet is considered a good border planet, the last time I came to the galaxy-level existence was half a month ago. Half a month. Jia Yan recorded the sentence in his mind. A galaxy-level existence in half a month is still a small amount in the other person's mouth. So, on a more prosperous planet, wouldn't the galaxy level be seen every day? If a strong person from the outside were to hear this kind of thing, they would definitely be stunned. After all, the galaxy class is in the outside world, and sometimes you will never encounter a few people with the same strength as yourself, but if you put it here and encounter it every day, wouldn't it be scary? Actually, I'm just here for shopping. Your Excellency, if you want to trade with me, you may be disappointed. Jia Yan laughed, but he didn't dare to admit that he was here to trade. During the mutation process, he consumed many of the materials in his hand. He really wanted to trade or something, but he didn't have that kind of background. Avoid letting the other party entertain you in vain, and end up not buying anything. If there is a conflict, he, a newcomer to the outside world, will definitely suffer. Although Jia Yan thinks that he can deal with this mid-level being in the galaxy, he does not look down upon the creatures in the central star field of the galaxy. Besides, what kind of force should the opponent be? Creature, it is still uncertain whether there is a being stronger than him in that force. Jia Yan will not make trouble. Oh. It turns out that you are here to have a look. It's okay. Just take a look. Forgive me, sir, is this your first time coming to the central star field of the Milky Way? I received a report from my subordinates. In the place where we are responsible for the light curtain, a middle-level lord of the galaxy who calls himself Assassin has come to our side. Could it be that you are the assassin? The other party walked with Jia Yan all the way, but he told Jia Yan's origins. Jia Yan was silent for a while, then shook his head slightly. Yes, I am the assassin. Your Excellency, your subordinates are really dedicated to their duties. It has only been a while since the information was passed to you. Jia Yan was indeed a little shocked, because this place was half a light year away from the light curtain at the other end. He used the Edicious 10-dimensional space navigation ability to travel through the stars and nights, and it didn't take long to get here. Well, if it weren't for some unique communication method, the other party's information would not have been conveyed so quickly. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1969. But think about it, the arrival of a mid-level galaxy existence, even in the central star field of the Milky Way, can be regarded as a noteworthy event. It is natural for the other party to use unique expedited means to communicate. Your Excellency Assassin, you don't need to filter too much. Our force is just paying more attention to the galaxy-level lords, and is not targeting you alone. In this way, since you come to the central star field of the Milky Way, you must not understand many things. As an offense to you, in return, if you don't understand anything, you can ask me if there is any public information that I can tell you, and I will tell you about it, so as to save you from making any mistakes here. Thank you very much. The two venerable level creatures were talking nonsense here, but there was no one around them who heard these voices. A well-known venerable, or even a half-star powerhouse who was more powerful than the venerable passed by them and looked like it's as if I didn't realize it. This is because the strength of the two beings is not at the true venerable level at all. One of them even has his true body on this planet, and his original strength has reached the galaxy level. He wants others not to notice the relationship between him and the distinguished guest. He can naturally communicate easily. What's more, this kind of reception is the most basic courtesy. Strong people don't really want to be seen and heard by ordinary creatures at important times. Sir, I wonder how many middle-level galactic beings like us are there in the central star region of the Milky Way? Jia Yan asked. The two of them walked on the street like ordinary shopping creatures. Oh, Mr. Assassin, if you ask me this question, it's a bit difficult for me. You have to know that the central star field of the Milky Way is said to be a star area, but in fact it is very large, with a radius of 10,000 light-years, and you have to know that in these 10,000 light-years, the total population is extremely large. About 1/10 of the entire population of living creatures in the galaxy is here. In addition, the number of powerful people is overwhelming. I want me to come up with a relatively large number. I don't know the exact answer to the number of galaxies. After hearing this, Jia Yan was secretly stunned. He had known for a long time that the central star field of the Milky Way was not small, but he did not know that there were so many galaxies here that even an intermediate galactic being could not give an accurate rough answer. Jia Yan thought for a while, then asked in a different way. Okay, can you please tell me how many Territory Lord creatures there are? There are not many Territory Lord creatures in the outside world. There may not be a Territory Lord creature in remote places, or even within a few hundred light years. What Jia Yan is talking about is the Orion Arm. There are no Territory Lords within hundreds or even thousands of light years there. Although there is a reason why the Orion Arm is closed, it also shows that Territory Lord creatures are rare. But the way Jia Yan asked the question still made the clone of the mid-level galaxy creature hesitate slightly for a while. It seemed as if this question also stopped him. Let me answer you this way, Mr. Assassin, although I don't know how many Territory Lord creatures there are, but just over 20 years ago, a war broke out that affected more than a dozen major forces. In that war, Allied forces from both sides were dispatched. There are more than 1,000 Territory Lord creatures, which are still a dozen major forces in the central star field of our galaxy. Their total population does not account for a large number of the total population. I cannot calculate how many Territory Lords there are in the central star field of the Milky Way galaxy, because Territory Lord creatures are also constantly being born and dying, but I think it is certain that the total population of Territory Lord creatures will reach tens of thousands. Thousands? Jia Yan had a question mark on his face. He wanted to ask, are you sure you are talking about the Territory Lord and not the galaxy-level existence? Jia Yan felt that there were tens of thousands of galaxy-level beings, let alone Territory Lord creatures. If there were tens of thousands of Territory Lord creatures, how many galaxy-level beings were there? The number of galaxy-level creatures must be dozens of times more than that of Domain Lord creatures. That is to say, there are at least hundreds of thousands of galaxy-level beings in this starry sky alone, and there may even be over 1 million. Haha, Your Excellency Jia Yan, are you surprised? In fact, there is no need to be surprised. The central star field of the Milky Way is easy to produce strong people. Besides, don't you think that there are so many stars and interstellar matter in our star field that the planets are even more powerful? There are too many. Let's break them down. Sometimes there are thousands of planets, but not even one star. Looking at it this way, doesn't it mean that there aren't many galaxies at all? That's true. Jia Yan nodded slightly awkwardly. In fact, it is still too much. How many stars are there in the Orion Arm? How many planets are there? What is the total population? Isn't it possible that a galaxy-level existence like myself appeared? If you look at the proportions here, you would have to have at least dozens or hundreds of galactic levels to be normal. But in fact, it was an accident within the Orion Arm that he was able to reach the galaxy level. With the training environment of the Orion Arm, it would be difficult to reach the star level. So when facing the place with the easiest cultivation and the most geniuses in the entire galaxy, and the number of strong people, Jia Yan was like a countryman. He had seen some kind of paradise, and even a big city. He couldn't imagine this at all. How terrible is this cultivation environment? Seemingly sensing Jia Yan's forgiveness, the other party didn't say much. On the edge of the central star field of the Milky Way, this galaxy-level being has seen too many ignorant outsiders. Many powerful people think that they are galaxy-level, or even just a star-level, and think that they can go to the central star field of the Milky Way and make a name for themselves. But in fact, the powerful people who come here, let alone the star level, even the galaxy level, to a certain extent, are just cannon fodder. Even if they reach the level of domain master creatures, they can establish a sect in the central star field of the Milky Way, but they are definitely not absolute strong ones, because among domain master creatures, the gap in strength is huge. Well, Your Excellency, in the central star field of the Milky Way, Are there many adults like the high-level stars? Jia Yan suddenly changed his tune and asked this question. Well. The other party was startled, then shook his head slightly and smiled bitterly. Your Excellency Assassin, if you are talking about the strong ones among the Domain Lord creatures, I may be able to tell you some information, but the high-ranking figures of the galaxy, then I am not sure, but I can be sure that the high-ranking figures of the galaxy, even in the central star field of our galaxy, there are not many. According to my previous observations, there are no more than 20 high-level adults in the galaxy circulating in recent years. Of course, high-level beings in the galaxy have extremely long lifespans. There must be many who are in seclusion or practicing for a long time. They are unwilling to show up, and no one knows they exist. Moreover, middle-level beings in the galaxy like us seem to be one level behind them, but when it comes to you with my level, I naturally know how big the gap is even though it seems to be the same level, so I think it's better not to pay attention to the high-level big shots in the galaxy, and just work harder to advance towards the strength of the territory lord. Right. Jia Yan was silent for a while, then nodded. Although he has never seen any high-level creatures in the galaxy, after he reached the galaxy level, he knew in his heart that it would take a certain amount of time and hard work for him to be able to get away from the Domain Lord, let alone the galaxy who is much more powerful than the Domain Lord. High level. But Jia Yan was also a little surprised, because after hearing what the other party said about the number of Domain Lord creatures, he originally overestimated the number of high-level beings in the galaxy, but he didn't expect that there were only more than 20. Even if, as the other party said, many high-level galactic creatures are in retreat or practicing, then even if the number reaches 3 digits or more, there are more than 100 high-level galactic creatures compared to tens of thousands of Domain Lord creatures. Is it possible for only one territory lord to become a high-ranking person in the galaxy? Jia Yan walked a few more steps with the other person. Next, Jia Yan asked another question that made the other person speechless. Then, Your Excellency, do you know if there are beings at the pinnacle of the galaxy in the central star field of the Milky Way? The mid-level galaxy creature sitting on this planet was speechless for a while. In fact, he was almost made to laugh by this unknown outsider. Where did this countryman come from? He doesn't even know such basic knowledge. It can be seen that unless his hometown has some specialties that are urgently needed here, he wants to trade something with him. Something is absolutely impossible. Mr. Assassin, your question is a bit weird. Everyone in the central star region of our galaxy knows that in the central star region of the galaxy, it is almost certain that there is no strong person at the peak of the galaxy. Those who did exist in the past, there are only such a handful of people. You may also want to ask, has anyone previously broken through to the galaxy level? Haha, it is said that in an extremely ancient era, there was a mythical creature who broke through to the galaxy level. Above, but scholars have long denied this news, so don't take it too seriously. Just think of the top of the galaxy as the highest realm we can pursue. In fact, there have long been scholars or related powerful existence claims, saying it is to divide the levels above the middle level of the galaxy into a new level, and the existence of the peak of the galaxy is regarded as the supreme one, but it was stopped because some important people stopped it. The other party seemed to be talking to Jia Yan, but during the conversation, a hint of condescension gradually emerged. After all, the other party is a strong man who was born and raised in the central star field of the Milky Way, while Jia Yan is a bumpkin who has just arrived in the center of the galaxy. Even if many bumpkins arrive in the center of the galaxy, they will benefit from the cultivation resources here. The huge amount, the environment has become better, and the rapid progress, the strength has greatly increased, but it does not cause confusion at all to the local geniuses or strong people here. Because the rubes in the outside world, even if they have good talents, but compared to the central star field of the Milky Way, where everyone has good talents due to the influence of the environment for generations, their talents will definitely not be considered outstanding. In fact, this is also the case. Even Jia, who is known as the evolved beast race that many creatures and strong men are afraid of in the Orion arm, can be placed in this star field. This race seems to be very ordinary. A very common talent exists. Even the queen of the Zerg, the terrifying king whose talent is likely to exceed that of Jia, is only one of the tens of thousands of domain master creatures in this starry sky. Arrive. After hearing a lot of information, Jia became even more silent. Thank you for your advice, but as you can see, although I am a person from the outside world, I don't bring many supplies for trading. If you don't mind, I will bring a certain amount from my hometown next time. The supplies will surely satisfy your excellency when they come. It doesn't matter. The other party smiled and looked like he didn't care whether Jia would trade with them. Of course, what Jia didn't know was that the other party was already humming slightly in his heart, I know from this conversation that you definitely have nothing worth trading. No matter where you come from, there probably aren't any unique specialties. For this mid-level galaxy creature, he was at a loss for taking the initiative to talk this time, but it only lasted for a few words. For a galaxy-level being, this amount of time was still affordable. So he wasn't angry or anything. Through the words in the conversation, he finally knew that Jia was a powerful man with a large area of stars as his own territory. His strength may not be as strong as the galaxy level in this starry sky. But after all, he is a person with a large residential area. Compared with a strong man like him who only occupies a few planets and is a member of a powerful family, he still has more reputation. But he was not sure whether there would be opportunities to trade in the future. Even if he was asked to change with Jia, he would not do it. After all, a strong man who grew up in the central star field of the galaxy would be frightened by the barrenness of the outside world when he went to the outside world. Then thank you, Your Excellency. By the way, I would like to ask again, whether there was an outside force entering this starry sky some time ago. If my estimate is good, they should have entered from your side, or from somewhere else. Far import. When Jia asked about the information about the Zerg Queen and the others, the avatar of the intergalactic being who greeted him was slightly startled. He seemed to think of something, his eyes flickered for a while, and then he smiled slightly. Are they forces from the outside? Haha, Sir Assassin, I really don't know about this. Maybe they entered through the channels of other forces. You might as well go nearby and ask. Okay, thanks. Jia seemed to be unaware of the change in the other person's expression. Not long after, his clone quickly flew out of the planet. There seemed to be a line of sight in the planet behind, watching his departure. Is this guy actually a member of the force that came earlier? It's interesting, he. The galaxy class in the planet behind him were not at all surprised that there was a force behind Jia. What surprised him was that the other party was actually a member of that force. This is very interesting. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1970. An outside galaxy level being, even a mid-level galaxy being, would be a fool if he entered the central star field of the Milky Way alone when he was unfamiliar with the place he was born in. He had almost thought Jia was such a fool before. And even thought of some other thoughts. But now he knew that Jia, a countryman, was not completely stupid, so he could only give up his idea. Fortunately, he did not put his idea into practice, otherwise it would not be certain who would win. Jiayan's clone entered the next line. That guy obviously wanted to do something before. I asked around, and he almost figured out my bottom line, but now, he has chosen to give up. It can be seen that in the central star of the Milky Way, in the domain, it is really necessary to have a force to rely on. Jia Yan knew why the other party didn't want to take action. It was precisely because of his complete countryman temperament that he made the other party understand that even if he won the fight, there would be little gain, so he gave up. After all, fighting a galaxy-level being is still of the same level. Even if the other party is confident in himself, it is probably risky. He will not get anything good even if he is injured. It is not a good deal for him. As mentioned in the previous article, the more powerful the creature, the more important it is to its own energy. After all, the stronger the creature, the more difficult it is for them to repair their energy. If there is nothing worth gaining after a battle, then it's a loss. Haha, it's a good thing he didn't want to fight me, otherwise, I don't think I would lose. Jia Yan smiled confidently, and the other party was confident, so why wasn't he confident? Although he is sure that the strong men in the central star field of this galaxy will definitely not be as simple as the strong men in the outside world, Jia Yan also knows that he has great advantages. Now he has fully mutated, and his fighting power is terrifying. Extremely, he is not afraid at all if he really wants to fight. By the way, he also had other thoughts just now, that is, he wanted to reveal his power. If I guessed correctly, he probably wanted to recruit. But I took the lead and asked the Zerg Queen about their whereabouts. He won't say anything about it? That's right, in this starry sky, even if the galaxy class is a bumpkin from the outside world, it is definitely a good combat power. As long as a family has some strength, who wouldn't want to recruit a Xi mid-level person? But Jia Yan asked what the Zerg Queen said, which made the other party understand that Jia Yan had his own power, or that they were actually very familiar with that power. Yes, the previous Zerg Queen and the others did come to this starry sky, and they caused quite a stir. This is the reason why the middle-level galaxy-level creature had a strange look in his eyes after knowing that Jia Yan was looking for the Zerg Queen and her group. Continue to look for the Zerg Queen and the others. Since they entered in the name of power, there will definitely be no trouble in this starry sky. I will be right to follow the traces. But in the meantime, I can't be too showy. Here, the galaxy level is really not a very powerful existence. Even the domain lord creatures have tens of thousands, haha, it's really not bad, as far as I know. Where is the Milky Way central starfield? Jia Yan smiled slightly. In fact, he was both a little satisfied and a little disappointed with the galaxy's central star field. This starry sky should be mysterious and powerful to him, rather than a place where forces exist in every place. It should be that kind of desolate place. There should be strong people everywhere, but everyone at least has a certain space to survive. But if you think about it carefully, this is only at the edge of the star field, the center of the star field, or even the black hole in the center of the galaxy. There must be no extremely terrifying forces, because those who can go there are all terrifying and powerful people. Which powerful person? If you are willing to contract with others to become a force, you must be looking out for yourself. That may be the place that suits Jia Yan's ideas. And what he said is that in the central star field of the Milky Way, there may be high-level existences in the galaxy, about 100 of them. As for the peak existences, there are none. Jia Yan wondered whether what the other party said was correct. After all, others might lie to him. If what he said is true, then the Territory Lord is an absolute power in this starry sky. Because there are only so few high-level existences in the galaxy, they generally don't take care of things. How can we say this in this starry sky? All have a radius of 10,000 light-years, and high-level beings don't like to take care of things. Even if they take care of things, the area they take care of within these 10,000 light-years will definitely not be too big. Jia Yan knows that a high-level being in the galaxy will definitely not be the kind of strong person who cares about everything, because generally speaking, the essence of a strong person is a being who wants to infinitely improve his strength. In the center of the galaxy star field, so the training resources provided are enough, and it is useless for them to want such a big place. Therefore, within the entire star field, the domain master creatures should be the main combat power, or the dominant force. So, when the Zerg Queen comes to the star field, she can be considered a good player. Moreover, her strength should be considered a good power among the domain lord creatures. Jia Yan thought, returned to the subspace, and was received by his true body. In fact, Jia Yan was right. Far away at the other end of the starry sky, a huge space in the form of an energy ball has become a place where many powerful people in the nearest area can peek. This huge energy space has been stealing the show recently. After all, there are only a few forces that dare to stand still between the two major forces and blatantly purchase and sell cultivation resources and energy. No, I should say never. Even if there are strong dragons who occasionally pass by here, no one will not give face to the two forces in this starry sky. Being a local snake is not just a joke. In a place like this, relationships are as important as strength. No powerful dragon passing by would dare to easily provoke the local snakes. But the forces in this energy circle were different. They not only provoked them, but also fought with the two forces. As a result, what is a bit shocking is that the forces in this new energy circle are actually not weak. Especially the creator of the energy circle, who is also the strongest person in the energy circle, a huge and elegant female behemoth. Her fighting power is astonishing, and she has steadily suppressed the strongest of the two major forces. But it's just suppression. I didn't expect that the center of the Milky Way is the Milky Way's central star field. As soon as I arrived here, I encountered a domain lord creature that I couldn't kill. Inside the energy circle, the Zerg Queen, who had spent a lot of energy, looked extremely solemn. After fighting two domain lord creatures one after another, she had consumed too much energy and was replenishing it quickly. She is very solemn, because she is the absolute king around the large star field of the Zerg domain. Since the last time she killed many domain master creatures with one enemy against many, no other existence has dared to provoke her, even the domain lord creatures kept a distance from her. But as soon as he arrived in the central star field of the Milky Way and found a place to stay, he was approached by two domain masters from surrounding forces. Originally, she was very confident. She knew that her talent was great in the outside world, but in the central star field of the Milky Way, she would probably only be considered above average, or at most slightly outstanding. However, she just entered the central star field of the Milky Way. It should be easy to deal with the two domain master creatures. But the fact surprised her a little. The two coming domain lord creatures did not join forces to fight her. They fought one by one, but they all escaped in her hands. Yes, although it was just an escape, for the Zerg Queen, it was like a bucket of cold water being poured on her face. She was conceited about herself. She originally thought that at least at the beginning, her strength should be able to be successful for a while when she first arrived in the central star field of the Milky Way. She would not encounter obstacles until she reached a certain level, but she never expected that. I didn't even take the first step and encountered obstacles. If the two of them join forces to fight me, I may not die, but I will definitely not win. The Zerg Queen's pride made her very depressed. Even when the temporary subordinates and galaxy-level beings around her looked at her, she felt a little embarrassed. I promised everyone that I would come here, but the first battle was so fruitful. Should it be said that this is worthy of the center of the Milky Way, or should it be said that she thinks too highly of herself? Well, at least I still have the possibility to suppress these two domain lords. As long as they don't join forces, they won't take the initiative to cause trouble in this desolate land where there is no planet. How are your casualties? The Zerg Queen was not that insincere. She just had a slight moment of self-reflection and then asked the subordinates around her. In the two wars, the losses on our side are still within a reasonable range. 2 people died at the galaxy level, 10 died at the star level, and hundreds of weak creatures below died. The black sheep beside her responded lightly. That's okay, the loss is within our acceptable range. The Zerg Queen was a little tired and nodded lightly. By the way, is there no news about Jia Yan yet? She still remembered this talented person who had previously prepared to lower the energy circle to improve his strength. If they had not been marching at that time, maybe the Zerg Queen would have stopped the energy circle to protect Jia Yan's promotion. After all, a mid-level galaxy being was still extremely important in her immature small circle. Of course, now in this star field, intermediate galaxy seems to be everywhere, and the longing for Jia Yan is not that deep. No, this Jia Yan is either dead or scared. Black Sheep snorted slightly when he saw the Zerg Queen mentioning Jia Yan. He and Jia Yan didn't know why, but they didn't have so many happy memories from the beginning. But after arriving in the central star field of the Milky Way, Black Sheep understood how big the world was. He seemed to be more open-minded about the things he had been worrying about before, and he no longer had so much ill feelings towards Jia Yan. Of course, this is also because Jia Yan has not returned to the Force. If he comes back, Black Sheep will probably still feel like he has eaten shit, and he will definitely have to deal with Jia Yan. Well, he has a good talent. I thought that if he came to work for me, he might be the next you. The Zerg Queen seems to value Jia Yan very much. Hearing this, Black Sheep's expression became even colder. He is very conceited. In this quasi-force that the Zerg Queen has hastily formed, he thinks that except for the Zerg Queen, everyone else is far behind him in terms of strength and talent. He was even thinking that he might be about to reach the Territory Lord level. If he reaches the Territory Lord level in the future, if there is a chance to impact the strength of the Zerg Queen, he is likely to win the heart of the Zerg Queen. Of course, he only dared to think about this kind of thing in his mind. If he said it, he would definitely be slapped to death by the Zerg Queen. Black Sheep originally thought that when he arrived at the center of the galaxy, the Zerg Queen he had been thinking about might annihilate everyone. But when he got here, he found that although the Zerg Queen was no longer as powerful as the outside world, she was still so outstanding. So the thoughts in his heart instantly became stronger. Conquering a female with strength, talent, and status, whether weak or strong, is a favorite. That Jia Yan is probably either scared or dead. He probably won't be able to come back. If he comes back, I have to be careful about him competing for power with me. Black Sheep knew that Jia Yan was not his love rival. After all, the other party did not have any special relationship with the Zerg Queen. However, Jia Yan had been promoted to the middle level of galaxy, so theoretically speaking, he was on the same level as him, and his talent is indeed good, and it is likely that there will be some power competition for him in the future. So he was essentially happy that Jia Yan could not return. Hey, someone sent us a message. I seem to have seen someone suspected of being Jia Yan 15 light years away. Suddenly, Black Sheep and the Zerg Queen received such news. Asshole, you're still alive. Black Sheep's expression changed slightly. As for the Zerg Queen, she looked at the Black Sheep calmly, and then a smile appeared on her beautiful face that looked like a human being. Very good. Jia Yan should be on his way to promotion. Something happened and he was delayed. Now that he has arrived in the central star field of the Milky Way, he will definitely come to us. Send someone to give him the news and ask him to come over. It happens to be us when we need help. A mid-level star like him can be a good help. Seeing the look on the Zerg Queen's eyes, Black Sheep shook his head slightly and sighed. He knew that the Zerg Queen was very aware that she had some grudges with Jia Yan, or that he was unilaterally dissatisfied with Jia Yan, but the Zerg Queen did not stop her, just to allow them to compete in a healthy way. It's just this feeling of superiority that makes Black Sheep very unhappy. After all, he dared to possess the Zerg Queen herself, but now he was being plotted and used by the other party, and he must be unhappy. Correct. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1971. By the way, This Jia Yan is more than 10 light years away from us. If he wants to come here, he must pass through the territory lord creature that was seriously injured by the queen. Suddenly, Black Sheep's eyes lit up. Black Sheep is the second strongest person among the forces created by the Zerg Queen. He is second only to the Zerg Queen in terms of power and is completely superior to other strong people. His ideas and intelligence are extremely important. This time he learned the news of Jia Yan's return, and suddenly became slightly anxious. It's not that he thinks Jia Yan will pose any threat to him in the short term, but this talented person is a serious problem after all, and the Insect Queen has an extremely positive view of him, even if she refused to Jia Yan last time. If he breaks through early, the Zerg Queen still values Jia Yan, so he is extremely unhappy with Jia Yan. This guy will definitely become an obstacle to me in the future, so. Black Sheep thought about something, then sneered slightly. He quietly exited the energy circle somewhere unknown to the Zerg Queen. Although he knew very well that as long as he used some methods, he could conceal the Zerg Queen's communication with others within the energy circle, but he did not take any risks. As a creature not far from the territory lord, he knows better than any other creature how powerful the Zerg Queen is, but he also knows some of the shortcomings of the Zerg Queen. That's right, I didn't expect that I would contact you. Don't be so angry. I have no intention of gloating. After all, we came to this central star field of the galaxy to improve our strength, not to fight with you. The Black Sheep seems to be communicating with a being outside the energy circle. Haha, that's right. Don't say it so harshly. I didn't betray Her Majesty the Queen. You don't need to tell me how to provoke the general. Even if you go to our queen and tell her this, she won't believe you. But, I do. I'm very interested. I want to tell you some information. A certain being is one of ours. He was not in our power before. Yes, so you already know his information? Haha, okay, then I won't say more. Yes, you know what to do. I will also give you a certain reward at that time. Black Sheep hung up the communication. Then Jia Yan, he should die this time. Black Sheep sneered. Far away in the starry sky, Jia Yan didn't know that his information was betrayed by a traitor. He himself is in the subspace, constantly searching for information about the energy circle of the Zerg Queen. Oh, you mean, you have seen the place in the middle of the two star fields. Did they have another fight? Jia Yan finally found the stellar garrison on a certain planet outside and inquired about the whereabouts of the Zerg Queen and her party. In fact, the news about the appearance of the Zerg Queen and her party is big news in this starry sky. In addition to ordinary creatures that have no information, more creatures have actually known about their party for a long time. And it's not that ordinary creatures don't want to know this, but the message methods of ordinary creatures are much slower than those of the strong, so they have not received these messages for the time being. When the time comes and news of the Zerg Queen and her new group of forces spreads, perhaps this unexpected outsider force will become a well-known force in the starry sky. Of course, it's still early to talk about that, and people like the Zerg Queen may not necessarily settle in this starry sky. The central star field of the galaxy is not suitable for outsiders everywhere. For example, this land of stars, in the central star field of the galaxy that is 10,000 light-years in size, is just a frontier. In short, Jia Yan was slightly happy after hearing the news about the Zerg Queen. Sir, can I leave? The high-level star creature saw Jia Yan being surprised there, and quickly asked this question quietly while the other person seemed to be in a happy mood. Oh, you can go. But please don't reveal that I have inquired about their information here. That's for sure, my lord, please rest assured, I will not be mean-mouthed. The stellar high-level creature immediately gave his sworn guarantee. When the star-level creature left in a hurry, Jia Yan looked at him, then sighed slightly, stepped back and entered the subspace. Little did he know that this stellar creature would definitely not fulfill his promise. But he didn't dare to kill the other party, because he finally understood that the powerful creatures in this starry sky all had their own forces behind them, just like the two forces that had fought against the Zerg Queen. But it's really amazing. In this central star field of the Milky Way, there are only remote starry forces, but they unexpectedly encountered two territory lords who showed up to fight the Zerg Queen. Even if they were weak, they were only a little bit weaker. Regarding the central star field of the Milky Way, Jia Yan originally thought that the talent and strength of the Zerg Queen, even if it was no longer peerless here, were certainly extremely rare. But unexpectedly, they encountered Waterloo just after arriving in the central star field of the Milky Way. This shows that the talent and strength of the Zerg Queen may not be as strong as Jia Yan thought in this starry sky. Of course, it also shows that the central star field of the Milky Way is more terrifying than he imagined. After listening to what the mid-level galaxy creature said earlier, I originally felt a little contempt for the central star field of the Milky Way, but now that I look at it, there is no place here that I can look down upon. Jia Yan sighed slightly. There are so many territory lord creatures, and there must be something more terrifying than the Zerg Queen. However, among so many territory lord creatures, there are only about 100 high-level strong men. This shows that the gap between territory lords and high-level ones is bigger than it was, much scarier than Jia Yan imagined. He originally had a certain degree of confidence in whether he could reach the high level or even the peak of the galaxy, but now that he saw this situation, his confidence in himself had actually diminished a lot. But the food has to be eaten one bite at a time, and the road has to be taken step by step. I don't even have the existence of a domain master now. Thinking about the level of a high-level peak existence is a bit too ambitious, so I don't have to think so much. Jia Yan shook his head and let his true body quickly retreat into the depths of subspace again. Because it's not too far over there. If it's 10 light-years away, it's not cost-effective to enter the 10-dimensional subspace. Besides, it's impossible to go so accurately into the 10-dimensional space. Although I also know that within this 10 light-year distance, it takes after passing through the two forces that have fought against the Zerg Queen and others, I must be just a member of the Zerg Queen's side who has not yet been exposed, so they probably won't think of ways to deal with me in advance. Jia Yan prepared to walk forward along the depth of about 7 degrees. In this way, the direction and accuracy can be controlled well, and the error of half a light-year or more will not occur when reaching 10 light-years. If the 10-dimensional subspace travel method is used, an error of half a light-year may occur. So for Jia Yan, there is no solution. He also knew that there would be accidents in this process, but he always had the idea of luck in his heart. After all, he had just arrived in the Central Star territory. If the enemy knew that he was the queen of the Zerg even in this situation, it could only be said that in the Zerg there's some kind of mole on the queen's side. But Jia Yan never thought that this ghost would actually appear. Who? Compared with the tranquility in the 10-dimensional space, where the murderous intention is hidden under the silence, inside the 7th-dimensional space, the murderous intention is directly exposed, and it looks more dangerous than in the 10-dimensional space. Much feeling. However, Jia Yan has long been familiar with the 10-dimensional space. How can he be afraid that although this may seem huge, its actual lethality is dwarfed by that of the 10-dimensional space in the 7th-dimensional space? Therefore, in this 7th degree, he did not have the slightest sense of danger at all, and he even took the time to practice when he was free. The matter of advancement was completely left to the Edisha. The Edisha has received a large amount of resources in the game space, and is now in a state of having nowhere to use its energy. The huge giant Mosquito, with its compound eyes flashing with light, flew forward with great force in this 7th-dimensional space. "Sir, we are here with the Zerg Queen this time. Do you want her to give you more resources? I feel that they have not fulfilled their promise before. If they did not allow you to be promoted in the energy circle, where will the previous danger be encountered?" Adisha was beside Jia Yan, chatting with Jia Yan. It is not an actual body, but a manifestation of the intelligence inside the Adisha, so it will not be affected by the environment in subspace. Jia Yan looked at Hineo, who was enlarged in a large circle and looked like another giant mosquito flying beside him, and shook his head slightly. It's impossible. I actually disobeyed orders this time. They gave me the star core first, but I didn't use it to improve. This has already made the Zerg Queen unhappy. If I want any compensation, it's just asking for trouble. Jia Yan never thought about asking the Zerg Queen to compensate him or anything. He knew that even if the Zerg Queen tried to appease others, she would not be biased towards him. This was a very unfair situation to others. No matter how much she valued Jia Yan, she would not be able to do so. Besides, does the Zerg Queen really value herself as much as Edisha thinks? Jia Yan smiled slightly, knowing that this was impossible. Especially after arriving in the central star field of the galaxy, he knew that this was even more impossible. There are so many geniuses in this star field. Jia Yan even felt that the previous mid-level galaxy creature seemed to be as talented as him. Of course, the specific combat effectiveness would only be known after fighting. Therefore, he is not arrogant. If he only thinks that the Zerg Queen values his talents and gives awards or the like, then he is looking for a slap in the face. Jia Yan travels in subspace. But after walking about halfway, he felt slightly uncomfortable. Why are you so worried in your heart? Jia Yan was slightly solemn. He knew that his strength had reached the middle level of the galaxy, and even because he was often in intensive battles, he had an innate sense of danger. Even though this kind of crisis awareness is not as good as that of most professional experts, he still believes that his awareness will enable him to seek good fortune and avoid disaster. The feeling of panic now was just like the feeling he felt beforehand when he encountered danger. But I am in the seventh dimension. Generally speaking, there is no existence that can attack the seventh dimension. No. If it is a galaxy-level strength, or even a domain master creature, it is possible. Just when Jia Yan wanted to understand this, he didn't even have time to give Edisha any order to avoid. Boom! Outside the subspace, an earth-shaking force suddenly came. Damn it, the strength of the domain lord. As soon as Jia Yan felt the terrifying power, his expression changed instantly. This is the power of domain master creatures. The force that blasted into the subspace from the outside came from a domain master creature. Humph, this subordinate of the Zerg Queen actually has a good subspace talent. He actually uses the seventh-dimensional subspace as his regular means of movement. He is extremely talented. A creature that looked like a human being with two horns was outside the subspace and kept waving its arms. It was obvious that he was the one who had just swung a punch and attacked the existence inside the subspace. This creature is 80 or 90 kilometers tall. Although his body is not considered a giant among territory lord creatures, his strength is definitely at the level of a real territory lord. With a terrifying momentum, while wielding this punch, the brainwave power of this domain lord creature exploded. This brainwave power helped his fist energy to attack the subspace. With domain lord level strength, one punch can reach 10 dimensions in one blow. However, this domain lord creature seemed to be injured in some way, and his attack could not penetrate into the 10th dimension. But the existence he wanted to deal with was not in the 10th dimension, but in the 7th dimension. Not good. At this time, in the 7th dimension, Jia Yan, who was still vigilant just now, suddenly felt the attack, and instantly felt bad all over. Damn it, I can't dodge this blow. The attack from the domain lord level creature, the level of terror can be said to be earth-shattering. As soon as Jia Yan felt the attack, he knew that he would not be able to dodge it. If you can't avoid it, stay away from the vital points. Edissa, spray me. Jia Yan not only wanted to use his own strength to dodge the opponent's attack, but also prepared to let the jet-like energy that the Edisha had been maintaining be ejected in one breath. This is one of Jia Yan's methods to save his life. Okay. Edisha nodded quickly, and then, the Edisha carried on Jia Yan's back suddenly spurted out a stream of flames. All this sounds complicated, but in reality it only takes a tiny bit of time. Of course, this little time is already a long time for the strong. If Jia Yan reacted a little slower, the energy of the opponent's fist would fall on Jia Yan. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1972. Even while Jia Yan was dodging, the opponent's fist strength was still exploding crazily. Well. Jia Yan's expression changed drastically, causing Edisha to suddenly spurt out the energy of the engine deeper into the subspace. Then, he himself aimed at the coming fist energy and instantly blasted out a wave of brainwave power. This brainwave power can be said to be the pinnacle of his power in history. In the subspace, his yin-yang dao seemed to be an attack method suitable for the subspace. It blasted out in an instant, causing the world to change color. Moreover, Jia Yan has just been fully promoted to the middle level of galaxy. At least for him, the self after mutation is the one who has truly completed the promotion. After this attack, his strength was almost half as strong as before the mutation. Don't underestimate this half-time. A half-time increase in a strong man's strength is an earth-shattering change. But at this moment, he did not expect that his bombardment would be able to keep the enemy at bay. Because no matter how hard he struggled, the opponent was a creature that had reached the Domain Lord level. Just looking at the terrifying energy, he couldn't resist it with a full blow. Bang! Sure enough, just as Jia Yan expected, when his energy hit the opponent's energy, the entire subspace around 8 degrees exploded with extremely shocking and terrifying power. The full energy he blasted was like a small river touching the sea, and was instantly swallowed up by the opponent's energy. Then, the power swept over him. Retreat. There was an extremely frightening light in Jia Yan's eyes. He did not break off his body and explode to deal with the enemy's attack, as he did when he encountered the Domain Lord creature before. It's not that he didn't have time to use such means, but because he felt it. This Domain Lord creature seems to be weaker than the one he dealt with last time. No, this guy is injured. Jia Yan suddenly remembered the rumor that the Zerg Queen had injured a Domain Lord creature. At this moment, he realized that the other party was the Domain Lord creature injured by the Zerg Queen. As for me, it was a coincidence that I was bumped into by the opponent and then intercepted him halfway. Or is it possible that this isn't a coincidence at all? During the tense battle, Jia Yan was still thinking about other things. Of course, I don't have so much energy to think about complex issues at this time. At this moment, facing the coming of the fist, he quickly retreated. Then, if the enemy is as powerful as the Zerg Queen, he should not be given a chance to retreat. But the guy who sneak attacked Jia Yan was injured after all. Even though his sense of energy was even greater than that of the Territory Lord who bombarded Jia Yan last time, after being injured, his overall sense of energy was still weaker than that. The main creature of the domain. So after Jia Yan retreated, he actually backed away. Puff. One foot lightly rubbed the force of his fist, and just like that, he felt that the foot was about to be scrapped. Fortunately, my foot has just been reborn, and the opponent's strength has also been reduced a lot due to the injury. At most, this foot can only be repaired after a period of rest, otherwise it will have to wait until the next mutation. If it can be repaired, I don't know how long it will take. Jia Yan lamented his good luck. At this moment, his body, under the influence of his full explosive retreat and the jet energy of the Edisha, quickly retreated to the depth of 9 degrees of space. The outside world is a pair of unwilling eyes. It's hard to describe how terrifying those eyes were, even though they were 9 levels apart. Jia Yan was slightly chilled by the sight. This was the unwilling look from a Domain Lord creature. If Jia Yan hadn't thought that there might be a crisis in the future if he was targeted by the other party, he might have become arrogant at this time. After all, there are not many creatures that are targeted by a domain lord and survive. Moreover, he was not only targeted by a domain lord level creature, but also by the previous domain lord creature. He attacked Jia Yan with full power, but he did not die. He even escaped. As a result, the whole universe came looking for Jia Yan. Yan trouble. Looking at it this way, Jia Yan has already saved his life from the two domain master creatures, and he can be regarded as an extremely terrifying person. He, Your Excellency, you want my life, so come on head on. The majestic territory lord actually uses some sneak attacks. This is too disrespectful of the dignity of a strong man. Jia Yan, who was living in the subspace, sneered coldly at the pair of eyes that were gradually disappearing. It is already difficult for the opponent to hurt him again. The ninth dimension of the subspace will only affect the strength of the domain lord a little. Even if the two sides can look at each other, it is because of the strength of the other side. It is a bit difficult for Jia Yan to see the scenery outside the ninth dimension. Snort. The enemy snorted even louder, and from this snort, you could tell that he was absolutely furious at this time. Ha 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 ha, goodbye. If there is a chance in the future, let's face off on the battlefield. Jia Yan laughed loudly, and then he retreated within 10 degrees of the subspace. Under an energy jet from the Edissa, he quickly disappeared into the subspace. Movement within 10 dimensions of space is extremely fast for a domain lord creature, let alone attacking. Outside the subspace, a huge monster stood coldly within the interstellar space. My lord, he has escaped, Boom. A star-level creature that was about to try to speak was instantly shot in the head. The domain lord level creature looked coldly at the subordinates who had accompanied him to this place and attacked Jia Yan together. Of course, they only thought about the useless applause and almost had murderous intentions. In today's scene, he was extremely embarrassed. He took the initiative to sneak attack a subspace gifted creature that was not at the level of a domain lord. He actually attacked a creature without the other party's knowledge, and the other party escaped. Word spread that he was not only defeated by a foreign domain lord creature, but was a little embarrassed. If a person's words are not good and the enemy makes a fuss about it, he will lose his prestige in this starry sky. Therefore, he wanted to kill all his subordinates present to avoid having his failure spread from their mouths in the future. Each and every one of his subordinates was silent. Each one of them felt the murderous intention of this territory lord level being. Everyone was shivering. Forget it. Suddenly, the domain lord creature sighed and stopped releasing his pressure. He figured out that the enemies had already escaped. It was estimated that even if the message was to be transmitted, it would be from their side. How could the people on his own side spread the message? The enemy should pass it first. He was definitely embarrassed by this face. And this guy who escaped has such a terrifying subspace talent. Even though he entered the 10-dimensional subspace by using the power of technology, he just didn't panic in the face of danger and used subspace avoidance to get out of my way. The attack also showed how terrifying his subspace talent was, and this guy was actually a subordinate of the Zerg Queen. He got such a subordinate, and when the strength of this creature increased, he became a confidant. Big trouble. When the domain master creature thinks of the Zerg Queen, it becomes so angry that it wants to vomit blood. Don't be such a bully. An outsider actually found his star field from the beginning and wanted to steal food from his mouth. Of course he wouldn't do it. Unexpectedly, the opponent's strength was so terrifying that he was injured. If it weren't for his extraordinary escape ability, they might all be dead now. There is another guy. We have been fighting for so many years, but we were defeated one by an outsider. Will he be willing? Today's incident means that the Zerg Queen has other potentials in the future, not that this time what kind of threat can a guy with space talent pose to us? It's just that her strength has been increasing, and she has even been recruiting strong people recently. If we don't respond, we will really have to sit back and wait for death. Forget it, I'll pull this face off and go talk to him. I've already lost such a big face anyway, I don't care if I lose it one more time. This domain lord creature actually looked away from the problem of face because of Jia Yan's matter. Jia Yan in the 10th dimension, if he knew that his appearance would cause a territory lord creature to look away from the face problem and run to talk to another territory lord creature, he would probably have mixed feelings. He should be proud to make a domain master creature shameless, but the other party is looking for friends to join forces. This will become a hardship for the Zerg Queen and him in the future, and that is a bad thing, so he will definitely have mixed emotions. Of course, Jia Yan didn't know all this. He escaped with lingering fear. So no matter how many things there are, I will always fly within the 10-dimensional space. Flying within 10 subspaces is much safer. Only a domain lord who also needs subspace talents or a high-level galaxy being can attack him. As for the chance of encountering these two beings, they are relatively small or even negligible, so Jia Yan does not think that he will be so unlucky. But it's really dangerous. There is actually a domain lord creature waiting to attack me somewhere. Jia Yan flew within 10 degrees of the subspace, and now he was terrified. This is what only happens in the central star field of the Milky Way. If it were placed in the outside world, it would probably happen anywhere. Not to mention being attacked by a territory lord creature. Even if you encounter a territory lord creature on the road, it is quite difficult. After all, territory lord creatures are extremely rare to see in the outside world. You will encounter them wherever you fly. Counting this time, he was attacked twice by the domain master's creatures. This is the central star field of the Milky Way. It seems that I am right to come here. How could the outside world put so much pressure on me? Jia Yan smiled slightly, leaving behind the tension and excitement. Instead of being afraid, he felt a little excited in his heart. If you were still outside, you would never encounter such a situation. He knew that his strength was nothing in front of the domain lord creatures. It was precisely because he joined the Zerg Queen and her team that domain lord level enemies appeared. But the previous domain lord creature should be considered the one provoked by the Zerg Queen and the others. I have never thought about how I provoked that person. It seems that in this starry sky, the competition between the forces should be extremely fierce. It's a complicated and dangerous thing, but this is also what I want. In the future, there will be a powerful enough existence to protect my growth, and there will also be a certain space and status for me to grow quickly. Jia Yan thought for a while, and then his thoughts turned to the characters on the side of the Zerg Queen. This domain master biological attack, I always feel a little weird. After all, people here definitely don't know my information. They don't even know who I am. How could they possibly think that I am someone close to the Zerg Queen? So, it's very possible that someone leaked the information. Black Sheep? Or who? Jia Yan instantly placed the first guesser on Black Sheep. After all, for him, the Black Sheep is the most likely threat to him next to the Zerg Queen, and besides, he does not seem to like him that much. The possibility of Black Sheep is very high. After all, to be able to contact a domain master creature and persuade him to come to attack, he must have a certain status with the Zerg Queen. Of course, other galaxy-level people are also possible. After all, I seem to have offended a lot of people. Or it can't be said that I offended them, but I didn't associate with them. Maybe this is too aloof for others. Jia Yan thought about many people, but after thinking about it, he actually got confused. Just now I was sure it was Black Sheep, but after thinking about it, I felt it didn't seem like it. As a result, in the later stage of the trouble, I couldn't figure out who it was. Forget it, I haven't been back to them for a long time. I don't know if the Black Sheep is still so powerful now, and I don't know if the others are still alive. After all, so many people are participating in the war, it is normal for a few to die. Fortunately, even the black sheep is dead, so for all speculations, we still have to go back there and see the situation. Jia Yan thought for a while and stopped thinking about it. Because he has been away from the Zerg Queen for a year or two. Don't underestimate these 2 years. Even if the strong ones are extremely old, 1 or 2 years is nothing to them, but these 2 years are the most important time for them. It appeared at the most critical point, so he couldn't guarantee whether there would be drastic changes on the Zerg Queen's side. So there's no point in thinking wildly. It's better not to guess, just go over there and take a look. I hope it's not a black sheep. If it is him, it will be a bit difficult to handle. Jia Yan really doesn't want it to be black sheep. If so, things will be extremely difficult. After all, his current strength is not as good as that of black sheep, and his prestige is far behind. If black sheep really wants to kill him back there, he will be in danger. Anyway, regardless of whether it is true or not, I will go back and take a look first. If it is true, then I might as well find an opportunity to escape. But it's hard to say what the Zerg Queen's attitude will be then. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1973. Jia Yandu felt a little headache. Go back, it's a bit dangerous, but don't go back. He is taking risks in the central star field of the Milky Way where there are as many galaxies as dogs and domain lords are everywhere. Who knows if he offends another domain lord again, he will die. Without relying on the Zerg Queen to improve her strength, I really don't know what to do. That's all, let's go take a look first. I don't believe it. Even if he is really a black sheep, he still dares to attack me in front of the Queen of the Zerg. If he fails, then he is looking for death. Jia Yan knew that the Queen of Zerg valued black sheep, but that didn't mean she would forgive a subordinate for destroying her majesty in front of him. And black sheep, as the person who is most familiar with the Zerg Queen, will definitely not be so stupid. So there won't be much danger if he goes back, at least not in the open. As for secretly, anyway, the soldiers will come and cover up the water and earth. I'll just check to see if it's a black sheep. Jia Yan believes that his main advantages lie in his talent and speed of progress. It's said that the talent is not as good as expected, but when it comes to the Zerg Queen, it's actually quite good. Moreover, Jia Yan also knows very well that his talent is said to be not good in the central star field of the galaxy, but in fact in this starry sky, it is only average compared to those top geniuses. Compared to the average galaxy level, he is definitely only those with excellent talent. Otherwise, he would not have made the black sheep, who was close to the territory lord level, so hostile. So Jia Yan was thinking that if the black sheep wanted to deal with him, then he would have to use his own fastest promotion method to increase his strength. As long as his true strength quickly approached the black sheep, he would not be afraid of him. Even one step ahead of him and entering the territory lord level, then the sky is really high and the sea is vast. No matter how he roams, there is no place where black sheep can restrain him. Not even the Zerg Queen can restrain Jia Yan anymore. Of course, if you really reach the domain lord level, for Jia Yan, you are not the Queen of the Zerg. Their constraints are gone. In addition, the pressure in the central star field of this galaxy will be much less. He estimates that he can truly involve himself in the Milky Way. The core secret of the central star territory is not just a matter of lack of constraints from the Zerg Queen. But, domain lord level? Jia Yan felt that it would be more realistic for him to go to bed early. We have reached the mid-level star level, but I always feel that it is still so far away from the domain lord level. Even though the domain lord creature can only be regarded as the mid-level galaxy, It is actually so much stronger than the ordinary mid-level galaxy. Jia Yan felt it was a bit funny. Territory Lord level creatures, in terms of current strength classification, are actually considered to be at the mid-level of the galaxy. I don't know who the creatures who originally divided this strength are, and how terrible their strength is. They actually divide existences with such a difference in strength. For a level. When Jia Yan himself reached the middle level of galaxy, he knew how far away he was from the territory lord level. Of course, the mid-level galaxy like me now is far different in strength from the primary level galaxy, so I may feel similar when I reach the territory lord level in the future. From the classification of levels, Jia Yan can think of many things. For example, the territory lord level is both a mid-level galaxy, and they are much stronger than the ordinary mid-level galaxies. What about the group of beings that can be classified as high-level? How much better will they be than the domain lord level? Jia Yan shuddered just thinking about it, and Jia Yan quickly interrupted his excessive thoughts. I feel like the closer I get to the central star field of the Milky Way, the more random thoughts I get. This guy really can't think so much. Jia Yan thinks that he is thinking too much. After all, for him, his strength is still that of a creature who has just reached the middle level of the galaxy, even if his middle level of the galaxy is stronger than the ordinary middle level of the galaxy. Much more, but it is still far away from the domain lord and the high level of galaxy, and it is impossible to go very far. Of course, this may also be a problem in the new environment. When he was in the Orion Arm, Jia Yan rarely thought about improving his strength, because in the Orion Arm, whether he was at the beginning of the galaxy, the intermediate galaxy, or once you reach the domain master or even high level, your status will be the same and you will be invincible, so you won't think about so many things. But after arriving in the central star field of the Milky Way, he was chased and killed twice by the domain master creatures. This made Jia Yan think about many things to improve his strength. With expectations, he would naturally have fantasies. Well, if I think about it anymore, I will become a person who only dares to dream. I'd better just improve my strength honestly. Jia Yan meditated for a moment, then smiled at himself. No matter how he thinks, no matter how powerful he thinks he is, he still has to improve his strength step by step, otherwise it is just a fantasy. The first step is to return to the Zerg Queen. It's a pity that I really don't dare to go out in this 10th dimension. Jia Yan can probably know who the domain lord creature is that sneaked up on him. The one who was injured, and the injury was relatively new, must be the one who was injured by the Zerg Queen. As for this person's appearance, Jia Yan was worried that another domain master creature who was also injured by the Zerg Queen would be waiting to attack him on the way, so he would not dare to go out to the 7th dimension again. After all, even if the domain master creature is injured, it still has the strength to attack the 7th dimension. Actions in the 10-dimensional space are just as Jia Yan thought. He has no idea where the outside world is. Even though the 10-dimensional space is calm, in fact the entire space inside is moving irregularly. Jia Yan watched as he made rapid progress in 10 degrees, but because he couldn't see the outside world, the subspace itself was moving randomly, so once he missed the exit, he would instantly reach the next station. This time too. Well. Master, I did miss it. It's my fault. Adisha made a miscalculation. I don't blame you. If you can even calculate the chaos of 10 dimensions, I will find it strange. Is it time to go out now? Because if we look back, even if we use the 7th dimensional method, I have no confidence. Okay, let's get out. In the subspace, Jia Yan spoke to Edisha, and then asked Edissa to drive the Edissa and fly directly out of the subspace. Just as he expected in advance, he flew a long distance within the 10-dimensional space. Half a light year? It's a bit different, but it doesn't matter. I just happened to go to the outside world to find out what the Zerg Queen and the others are doing here. Jia Yan was not unhappy about his mistake. Anyway, we have been separated from them for a year or two, so it's not a small amount of time. I just took advantage of this period of time to find out what the Zerg Queen and the others were doing in this star field. After all, they were close. Many people within this distance should know what they had done. Jia Yan was right. Creatures such as the Zerg Queen were indeed famous in this starry sky. There is only half a light year distance, so the creatures here naturally know a lot about the sudden arrival of another force. Moreover, even though the Zerg Queen is just a small force with a small population, there are many powerful people and they need a lot of external resources. This makes many small forces or corporate groups within half a light year keep coming to them. Conducting transactions in the area where you stay has greatly improved the business atmosphere of the entire starry sky. As for the territory lord creature who originally managed the existence in this starry sky, he ignored it at all, because the Zerg Queen defeated him, and he did not dare to stimulate the female territory lord creature too much, otherwise she would be killed. He couldn't hold it back if he went crazy again and challenged himself to a duel. Moreover, the ongoing business will have an effect on improving the business atmosphere of the entire starry sky. If it weren't for this force, it must have future plans. He would think that it would be good to have more such forces to carry out commercial activities. In short, this area of the starry sky has gradually turned into a no-care zone because it is too sensitive. Oh, did that force defeat the teams led by two domain master creatures in a row? Except for the most powerful female, the black sheep under her, as well as other galaxy-level beings, are all powerful. On this day, Jia Yan was walking in the starry sky, taking steps that intertwine subspace and normal space. He seemed unhappy, but actually he was walking extremely fast in the starry sky. Next to his giant mosquito figure, there was a figure much smaller than him. The owner of this figure was frightened and knew everything about Jia Yan. A mid-level galaxy creature came to ask him for directions. Not to mention that the things he knew were not secrets. Even if there were secret things, he had to tell them, otherwise his life would be in danger. This middle-level Lord of Galaxy has been inquiring about that force. Could it be that he has some hatred towards that force? No, I can't think so. His words have never revealed any hatred towards that force. Could it be that, I have an old relationship with them? When he thought of this possibility, the owner of the much smaller figure immediately understood how to speak. Next, his voice became more oriented towards the power of the Zerg Queen. The owner of this small figure is actually not a weak person, otherwise how could he possibly catch up with the speed of the subspace existence in front of him? He is a star-level expert who is ready to reach the galaxy level. But even such a terrifying star-level existence is nothing next to Jia Yan. Jia Yan's strength is at the middle level of the galaxy. Even if he reaches the galaxy level, he still has to kneel down. Of course, the creature at the pinnacle of the star also seems to know this. The creatures in the central star field of the galaxy have a vague perception of the strength of the strong. Even if he is weak, he is really slow. I slowly learned how strong Jia Yan was. So he didn't dare to tell lies. Oh, how do you know that black sheep is good? Hearing the star-level existence around him, he gradually said good things about the Zerg Queen, and said that they must have a very bright future. Jia Yan felt good about it in his heart, because he wanted to join the Zerg Queen and the others, precisely because of the future isn't too bad. But the other party actually praised the black sheep, and Jia Yan suddenly felt a little unhappy. Well, Lord Black Sheep, no, Black Sheep, his strength should be pretty good, but I think his talent is not as good as yours, and he is destined to be surpassed by you in the future. Seeing Jia Yan's attitude, the creature at the top of the star immediately understood that Jia Yan had some issues with Black Sheep, so his face changed just like his color. In an instant, he changed from saying good things about Black Sheep to saying bad things about him. You're quite flexible. Jia Yan was a little surprised and looked at this creature who didn't even care about the face of a strong man in order to survive. You know, This person is also at the pinnacle of a star. When he was at the pinnacle of a star, his face was very important. The other party seemed to know what Jia Yan wanted to say. Sir, don't wonder why a star class like ours is so shameless. In fact, this is the way to survive in the central star field of the Milky Way. Therefore, the creatures in the central star field of our galaxy also have to pay their dues, that is, they are weak. The period is very long, haha. When I heard from my friends in the outside world that a star-peak creature like me could walk sideways in the outside world, I was stunned. Maybe this is because the environment is different. This stellar existence is indeed very flexible. Haha, that's right, the environment is different. Jia Yan nodded. He met this pinnacle creature by chance on the road just now. He thought that a pinnacle creature would know a lot of real news, so he forced him to fly and ask some questions along the way. Originally, he was still thinking that according to the attitude of the star-level powerhouses in the outside world, he should use coercion and inducement. However, he did not expect that this peak star being, who was close to a star-level figure, actually acted like a coward. When asked casually, he would reveal everything like shaking a sieve. If Jia Yan didn't want to ask, he would have felt like introducing all the 18 generations of his ancestors. After listening to the other party's words, Jia Yan had a little understanding of what the Zerg Queen and the others had done before. The Zerg Queen and the others, after parting with Jia Yan, and came to this starry sky. Jia Yan guessed that they should be outside the central star field of the Milky Way. They waited for Jia Yan for a while, but Jia Yan did not come, so they entered the central star field of the Milky Way by themselves. As soon as they arrived in the central star field of the Milky Way, they immediately had a certain conflict with the force guarding the door. According to the explicit requirements of this gatekeeping force, other forces are absolutely not allowed to enter their star domain together like this, not to mention that among the existences that enter together, there are many galaxy-level existences. The general approach in this starry sky is to divide the incoming large-scale creatures into many small teams, and then divide them into long distances to enter the central star field of the Milky Way from the perspectives of several forces. Only in this way can the central star of the Milky Way be conquered. The power of the domain should not regard those who come as enemies. Of course, they still dare not move against such an extremely powerful existence, but it is obvious that the Zerg Queen and others do not belong to that level. As a result, a war began between what was considered to be the locals and the outsiders who didn't understand the rules. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1974. It's just that the results were a bit unexpected. The locals did not beat the group of foreign visitors out of the local area. Instead, the outsiders beat the two local superpowers to serious injuries in one breath. Of course, among the group of people from outside, there were also serious casualties. Although most of them were injured, all of them were injured, and their combat power was greatly damaged. So the two sides stopped fighting, and gradually stopped fighting, as if they had agreed upon something. Tacit agreement. So, I understand. Your Excellency, thank you for your explanation. Now you can go. Jia Yan understood everything, and then let this stellar existence go. Can I go? Thank you, sir. The creature at the pinnacle of the stellar level was extremely surprised when he heard that Jia Yan actually let him go. Without waiting for Jia Yan to say anything, he turned around and flew in the opposite direction. After all, Jia Yan flew all the way in the direction of the outsiders and kept asking about this group of outsiders. Anyone who was not a fool knew that he must be a strong man related to those group of country bumpkins. Ha, it makes me want to kill him. I'm not that bored. Jia Yan looked at this peak star level being who had fled and smiled slightly. To be honest, there are so many star classes in the central star field of the Milky Way that Jia Yan doesn't want to write down every one of them. If it were the Orion arm, he would probably pay more attention to it if there was a star class there. After all, there are too few star classes, but if you change it to the central star field of the Milky Way, it would be too difficult to remember. If you remember one, there will be the next. Therefore, Jia Yan doesn't want to kill such existences that are everywhere, as killing them is useless. Besides, he was extremely benevolent in answering questions along the way. Jia Yan was not a person who broke his word. Coming. With his pair of compound eyes, he saw a huge circle of energy in the starry sky from a distance. This energy circle is much larger than the one he rode in. It is tens of millions of kilometers long. After all, in a stable area, the Zerg Queen no longer needs to stabilize the energy circle in a smaller circle. When it is expanded, it will be like a real field, making it easier for the creatures inside to live, and having enough space and safety for themselves. A circle of energy that was incompatible with everything around it, as if there were really a group of country bumpkins there. Stop. Name whoever comes. Suddenly, a sharp shout came from in front of Jia Yan. Jia Yan was slightly startled, and then he saw a being whose strength had reached the galaxy level flying in front of his eyes. Jia Yan looked a little weird. Because the energy of this coming creature is extremely terrifying, pure and a bit mighty. Of course, these are not the point. The point is that among all the subordinates of the Zerg Queen that Jia Yan knows, no one has cultivated such power, because there is no serious galaxy-level cultivation method in that starry sky. Everyone figures it out on their own. The cultivation method, such a pure cultivation method, does not exist there at all. In other words, this galaxy-level being is a creature from the central star field of the Milky Way, or at least a being from the surrounding areas. Such a local actually became a hillbilly rapist? Jia Yan is naturally weird. I am Jia Yan, and I am originally a collaborator of the Zerg Queen. Jia Yan paused for a moment, and then spoke calmly when facing this elementary being from the galaxy rushing towards him. No matter what, he wants to enter the Zerg Queen's sphere of influence, so the relationship with her should not become too tense. What kind of collaborators? Those in this force are all subordinates of Her Majesty the Queen. You, a mid-level galaxy existence, dare to claim to be a collaborator. You must be a spy. The primary being of the galaxy looked at the area behind him, and then roared at Jia Yan as if he was extremely unafraid of death. Jia Yan couldn't help being slightly startled, and then looked at the area where the other person was looking. Then, he understood why this elementary creature from the galaxy was like this. Because in that area, there is an extremely astonishing and terrifying power, which is triggered but not emitted. Although ordinary mid-level stars may not be able to see it, for Jia Yan, this power is like a bright light, and he does not even use it. If you observe too much, you will know that there is a terrifying strong man there. This strong man is stronger than Jia Yan at first glance, but he is already close. Black Sheep. It turned out that there was a supporter. Jia Yan also became more energetic. This Black Sheep looked like he wanted to give him a blow. Oh, the cooperation I am talking about is the agreement reached with the Queen of the Zerg. It has nothing to do with you, right? In other words, when I left this energy circle for some reason, you did not exist, and now you are actually with us in this sphere of influence. Are you the spy? Yes, I was despicably attacked by a domain lord level creature when I came here. Tell me who sent you here. Territory lord? Despicable. The other party's whole expression was not good. Especially when he heard that Jia Yan was attacked by the domain master's creature and actually survived, his expression suddenly became abnormal. He felt as if he had listened to that person's words and came here to intercept a follower. He is a bit of a festive creature, and he did something wrong. That's right, I'm too stupid. How could I really be able to deal with that existence that even adults are wary of? This local elementary being in the galaxy suddenly didn't know how to speak. He didn't say anything, but Jia Yan, who bit back, immediately approached. Looking at your appearance, does it really have anything to do with you? Tell me quickly, does the territory lord have anything to do with you? You, don't hurt others with your words. I sincerely rely on Her Majesty the Queen. The primary creature from the galaxy was startled, and he immediately dared not admit Jia Yan's accusation, saying that Jia Yan was a slanderer. If you sincerely surrender to Her Majesty the Queen, you won't accuse me of being an outsider as soon as you see me or don't know me, and say, are you an outside spy who wants to cause destruction in our power? If you don't tell me, I will use my strength. Let you tell me. Jia Yan continued to approach Len Gran, and in an instant, all the strength in his body suddenly exploded. Well. The other party only felt that a shocking force exploded from the approaching giant mosquito body. Just now, he felt that although this person was a mid-level star in the galaxy, on the surface, he was not much stronger than himself, but now that Jia Yan's strength exploded, he knew that he was wrong. How wrong he was. People don't release their power all the time, just because they don't show off. Under Jia Yan's terrifying mid-level galaxy power, he retreated continuously, trembling with fear. Jia Yan, what are you doing? This is the first galaxy-level comrade our forces have found since we came to the center of the galaxy. You actually want to destroy the relationship between us. Doesn't this chill the hearts of our comrades? Suddenly, a soft snort came from the place where Jia Yan felt the terrible power just now. Moreover, there is a power here that is more terrifying than Jia Yan. Even if it comes out, it instantly suppresses Jia Yan's terrifying power and rescues the primary creature from the galaxy from Jia Yan's pressure. The creature that appeared there was completely black and looked like a huge black sheep. He is the black sheep. Oh, the rightful owner has appeared. Jia Yan smiled coldly, and both of them could hear the words he spoke. Black Sheep hummed awkwardly and pretended not to hear. The primary creature of the galaxy was slightly shocked. He thought that Jia Yan couldn't feel the existence of the Black Sheep at all, but he could actually feel it, which meant that Jia Yan's strength was really close to that of the Black Sheep. It seems that we should not completely fall to the Black Sheep. This elementary creature from the galaxy, who had just joined the Zerg Queen's force, immediately looked at Jia Yan again, and immediately did not dare to resist his pressure, and followed the pressure and retreated far away. This shows attitude. Black Sheep's anger felt like it wanted to explode for a moment. This Galaxy Junior is indeed not good enough to recruit. I have heard about it a long time ago. Every creature in this starry sky is just a grassroots. Even the Galaxy class has no character. Now that I see it, it is indeed the case. Of course, because of this, he would not have any ill feelings toward this elementary creature from the galaxy and want to kill him. After all, this is also human nature. Besides, he also wants to win over this local elementary creature from the galaxy. In the future his help is needed to win over more locals. So, he just glanced at this elementary being of the galaxy, and then turned his attention to Jia Yan. A bit of pressure from strength was projected onto Jia Yan. Huh? You have reached the middle level of the galaxy, and it is not the ordinary middle level of the galaxy. Yes, Jia Yan, you have left the force privately for more than a year, and your strength has improved. It's just that your improvement has made us and other forces waste it. I have spent a lot of time waiting for you at the central edge of the Milky Way. It is nothing to delay me, but you have delayed the cultivation time of the Queen, a genius. Do you think you deserve death? Jia Yan was shocked. What a loud tone, he actually brought out the Zerg Queen to talk about the issue at the very beginning. But this is definitely a very useful method. If he doesn't answer well, the Zerg Queen herself will feel uncomfortable with him, and it will be difficult for him to deal with it. Black Sheep, don't be slanderous. I just suffered an accident in the starry sky and had to postpone my return. Do you know what I have encountered in the past year or so? I am so anxious to put my hat on if you deduct it from me, Wouldn't it be too much to suppress me? Jia Yan slapped a hat back. Ha ha ha, Jia Yan, tell me, what accident did you encounter in the starry sky? You said I suppressed you. If you don't explain what you said today, I won't let it go. If you think so, I will suppress you for real. Have a look. The black sheep actually showed its fangs in such a moment, and its strength was filled with fear, and terrifying black flames erupted. Jia Yan's heart trembled. He had never thought that black sheep really wanted to take action directly when he came to the door of the power. This would be too fast. Feeling his strength again, Jia Yan knew that he seemed to be unable to defeat him for the time being. His strength was not even a little inferior. Black sheep, let me tell you now, what I encountered in the starry sky, that is, I was chased by a domain lord level creature in the star field where I left. As a person close to the domain lord, level creatures should be very clear about the strength of a domain lord level creature, right? In that chase, I almost died. Do you think it will take a year for my sheep to be well injured? Set off immediately to return to the force. Do you think it's too late for me to do this? Hearing Jia Yan's words, Black Sheep snorted even louder. Ha ha ha, Jia Yan, you said that you were hunted by the domain lord creatures at that time? I don't believe it. With your strength, now, I feel that being chased by the domain lord creatures is a bit uninteresting. It seems that you were the only one who won at that time. You are not even a high-ranking person, but you can actually escape the pursuit of a domain lord creature. Do you think I will believe it? This kind of rhetoric is ridiculous. Believe it or not, you can just go and ask where I entered the central star field of the Milky Way. The territory lord's pursuit of me has spread to a large star field. It can be said that my return here has also been full of twists and turns. You can understand things just by asking, why bother to use words to attack me here? Or, you black sheep, you want to try it yourself, can I escape from the domain lord creature? Come on. I am afraid of the domain lord. But I, Jia Yan, am really not afraid of you now. The other party asked aggressively, and Jia Yan didn't have to hide it. He is crazy, and I, Jia Yan, are even crazier. If you want to do it, just try it. That's right, he's really not afraid anymore. If you can't beat a black sheep, you can't beat a black sheep. But if you want to kill this existence, it's not that simple. Jia Yan's subspace talent allowed him to escape even the pursuit of the territory lord, not once, but twice. In this case, if he was still afraid of a black sheep who was not the territory lord, that would be too much. He underestimated himself. Huh? You want me to do it myself? Black Sheep could hardly bear it any longer. He is under the power of the Zerg Queen. Apart from the Queen herself, Jia Yan was the most terrifying being in terms of strength and power. Jia Yan actually wanted to challenge his pressure, which made him really want to take action at this moment. He didn't quite believe that Jia Yan could escape from the domain master creature. Of course, at this time, he was also wondering whether the domain master creature he had contacted had not taken action at all. If he had taken action, Jia Yan could still escape and still look intact. Black Sheep is really a bit feeling tricky. That's it, you two, please stop. Suddenly, in the extremely solemn atmosphere, a gentle voice suddenly sounded from the ears of the two of them. This voice was the voice of a female creature, and although the voice was soft, actually hearing it felt like a terrifying grand bell ringing in the ears, which was deafening. Hearing this voice, Jia Yan and Black Sheep were both shocked. They instantly knew that this was the strongest person in this force and the existence they feared the most, the Queen of the Zerg herself.